I can't see shit.
Yes, we're on. Aid, we're on. Hey, how you doing? I don't know if anyone can hear us. I'm getting a message up saying low system resources may affect your audio quality. So sorry if people can't hear us out there. I'm here with Aid Thompsin, who is our wonderful TikToky bastard. And we've got a wild Tanskiii has just entered the chat. Oh, here she is. Hello.
Hey.
Hello, Tanskiii. We need her to get into the. She's screaming. We can't hear it. It's a silent scream.
It's not a silent scream, you flange. I'm here.
There you go.
I'm all right. Right. I want you on top of you. I want you up there, and I want you down there. How does that not work? Why doesn't it let me do? How do you do the on top of things?
No idea.
Reverse release video order. No.
Well, this looks fucking weird, doesn't it?
What? It does look weird because I thought you were going to be on top of each other. You know, like on top of each other, and that just hasn't happened.
There's like some mad delay. I need to just not look at myself. So I'm going to have to do it.
Yeah, I've just got Zoom open. Zoom's fine.
Zoom is good. Okay, good.
Zoom's fine. It's all fine. Everything's fine.
All right. Well, listen, I'm kind of... What happened?
Nothing. It's just freaking me out, man. There's like a mad delay because I can see your screen and I can see my own screen, and it's just like there's too many fucking screens.
I've got to kind of get down here. Hello and welcome to another edition of, the first edition of the Labour Social. It is just past 9 o'clock on the 5th of May, 2023. I'm joined by Aid Thompsin and Supertanskiii.
What's up, motherfuckers?
Finally decided to grace us with a presence. But for some reason, Zoom is just the worst. It's the worst. Why can't... I'm trying to swap you around. I want you up there, Tan, and I want Aid down here, or vice versa.
What's going on?
I'm so confused. You do what you need to do, though.
How do you do it? You see, if I show myself view, oh my god, that just goes mad. Look.
Oh my god, this is like fucking Inception, man.
Just
like Inception.
We've entered the Matrix here. This is brilliant.
It's okay as it is.
Is it?
It's fine.
Is that fine? Okay,
yeah.
We've still got the chat coming up, so that's good. So hello everyone in the chat. How you doing? So today the Tories lost over. Get this. Get the prosecco out. Get the little prosecco out. They lost over 1,000 seats in the local elections.
Is that confirmed now?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. It was a couple of hours ago.
It happened. Like, did you not see the group chat going fucking mental?
I've been podcasting, man. I've been busy.
Oh, you've been busy.
That's
okay,
great.
so it's
1,000.
It's over 1,050. I think it was like 1,041 last time.
That's so fucking funny, considering like earlier on in the week, people were hyping the number of 1,000 as like, oh, if we say 1,000, then that means that when it comes in at like 500, it won't look quite so bad.
That's exactly what they were doing. Damage limitation all last night. You had that like soulless fuck. I can't remember his name. They're all soulless, aren't they?
A soulless Tory, Tan. That doesn't.
He was the bell end that, you know, the woman that used to present Newsnight, the blonde woman, I've forgotten her name. I'm terrible with names. Scully.
Yeah.
The one who did that kind of really revealing monologue where he's like, we're both tired. And she's like, oh, I'm not tired. He was on last night.
Right.
And he was going, well, you know, we could lose 1,000. And you could tell they were just trying to like hype it up. So when it inevitably they thought was lower than that.
Yeah.
But it's like, fuck you fuckers. We've got everyone out.
Well, it's now 1,055. That's the latest. Scores on the doors, George Doors.
Nice.
Woo!
Scores on the doors of...
Okay, so here's my question.
Go on.
Given that last year Johnson lost 400 and something seats, wasn't it, in the local elections, and immediately afterwards people were saying, well, is this a sort of like almost a reverse mandate of his leadership?
Yeah.
So does he have to go? And that didn't remove him from power, but it wasn't long after that he was removed from power.
Right.
What does this say about the immediate prospect of Rishi Sunak's leadership? Do you think are they going to demand a general election now, or is he going to just go, no, we're not getting a general election because that would be disastrous for us and we refuse to hold one?
That's all they can do. What are they going to do? Ship in like the fucking 20th Prime Minister in a couple of months? Like, you know what I mean? They're fucked.
Yeah. They are fucked. They're absolutely fucked.
Whatever they do, they are fucked. There's no way back from them. They have been rejected, wholesale rejected by the public.
Yeah. But we gotta big up our man Josh from Team Vote, from the Movement Forward, who
Isn't he
has...
coming in?
Yeah, he said he'll be here at 15:15, so a couple of minutes, and he's usually on time. So
Josh
then there'll
is
be
like
3
our
obvious,
Megamind.
and then my whole screen is gonna go mad. I don't know what I'm gonna do. When there's
It's
3
all right.
obvious.
We'll find a way to cope. But
I'll
Josh
move
is
back to the
Josh is
corner.
literally like, I used to for a bit call him like a non-evil Dominic Cummings. In terms of
That's not a flattering thing to say, Tan.
No, I know it is. It isn't. Now we call him Megamind.
Megamind's better because like Dominic Cummings isn't that smart. He isn't. He likes people to think he's smart. He's one of them, isn't he?
He's just a manipulator, isn't he?
Josh is the sort of the kind of the counterpoint on the progressive side of things of what Dominic Cummings kind of styles himself as.
Yeah.
So Cummings is very sort of keeps himself in close proximity to tech and data, doesn't he? But
no, I think he just pretends to. Honestly,
yeah.
You know, my partner works in tech and data. Oh my God, I'm in front of Josh. Hang on, Josh has turned up, but I'm totally bogarting Josh here. Let me just move myself across a little bit. There you go. Hello. It looks like I'm standing next to him, although I'm very small. You
do look like a tiny
ventriloquist dummy on Josh's knee. Oh my God.
Is that better?
Oh, brilliant. Right, but Josh is here now. Excellent. So the screen is filling up nicely. I just need to
We're talking about you, Josh. We were saying how you're like Megamind, but I was thinking more like if you know the Minions film, you're like the Claw.
Okay.
You're like, it's like all hail. You are like, massively responsible for everything. We just come in and tie it up.
Yeah, indeed. So Josh is responsible for the website stopthetories.vote, which remarkably yesterday during the election, it had 3 people visiting it every second. Every second. That's an insane rate, that is, man. And do you think that it had a sizable impact on the result? We're looking at it now. It's the Tories have lost 1,055 seats.
Wow. I mean, so obviously, you know, a lot of people heard about it, and that's a great thing. We need to do some looking at the data to like correlate the advice we were giving, how many people visited each ward and council, and then, you know, look at the outcomes and how accurate we were. And I think obviously a few correlations means something, but actually like we need to work out what a threshold might be to see if we had an impact or not, you know. So, you know, 5 councils, right. And, you know, if those were the top five looked for on the website, fine. But we can't claim that, right?
No. But
so we need to work out.
You got tweeted the arse off you by Carol Vorderman. I think you're now Carol Vorderman's fellow number 7.
No comment.
Who else did you get? Like big names. You got James O'Brien actually retweeted one of Carol's tweets, didn't he?
Yeah, go on, Aid. What were you going to say?
Simply Red. Let's not.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we know how much you love fucking Simply Red. I've had stars in my head all week.
Oh no!
Go on, give us a couple of seconds, Aid. Go on.
What of stars?
Yeah.
No. Well, I'll never forget him for denying Pulp the #1 slot in 1995.
Oh man, Misshapes has been going on in my head quite a lot. It's but what's it? We had Robert Smith.
Yeah.
I didn't know the guy was following me.
Oh
I had no idea.
Big Tories don't cry, right?
Yeah.
Well, they're crying tonight.
Yeah.
They are crying tonight. And it's fucking beautiful.
Who's your favourite sad Tory face that you've seen so far?
Well, you know, so honestly, I have not been able to pay a lot of attention.
Not seen enough. There was a woman on Channel 4 News that I clipped up and put out and was like, make her, you know, we objective achieved. And then a few people were like, that's really harsh. I was like, not really, because of those bastards, people frozen and starved to death. I don't think it's harsh enough, actually. But yeah, like she was good. I like the Chelmsford one as well. That was good, Vicky. But that was a while ago. But it still counts.
Yeah.
Still counts.
Yeah,
I'm a bit giddy, honestly. I can't believe I'm this excited about a local election. Like, who cares about a local election? But this
matters
so
now.
exciting this evening.
That's a really interesting thing.
Like crazy.
I mean, local elections, who cares, right? I mean, no one shows up and no one pays attention. And there's a lot of, like, you know, people don't necessarily understand what their council does versus what their MP does and that kind of stuff. So it's very hard to get excited about. But my personal feeling is that people will do anything and take any action they can right now to do something, anything about what's going on. And voting is an opportunity to do it. And so they did it.
We've
right.
got some cracking comments coming in, mate. We've got a Tory spanking. Sorry, I can't help it. We've got Ruth saying, glad the Greens picked up a few. The Greens did indeed. They got 240 seats.
Yeah.
They doubled their councillors, didn't they?
The Lib Dems got 415, and Labour are now on 527. And this is something that we wanted to happen because we want the Tories out. You got to understand, this is Labour Social, but we want the Tories out. That's our number one objective on this channel. And
progressive parties getting rid of, progressive candidates getting rid of regressive candidates.
Yeah,
that's what it was all about.
And the mad thing is, like, pretty much anyone who isn't like UKIP is kind of progressive compared with the Tories right now.
And UKIP are done.
Yes,
right.
UKIP are over.
Not a single UKIP elected person at any level of any elected position in the country left.
How good is that?
But I was thinking about this. Like, we have to acknowledge that one of the reasons there is no longer a UKIP of any standing is because the Tories have lurched so far to the right. So they are, like, I called them blue kip in that rap song, but it's like that's what they are, right? It's one of the reasons that they were so neutered is because the Tories just went, you know what, if we want to stop hemorrhaging these MPs who were defecting to UKIP at that point, we're going to have to replicate their policies and stop giving them a reason to leave. So it's kind of like, yes, I'm glad that UKIP are gone, but that ugliness still remains. Unfortunately, it's in one of the mainstream parties now.
I think it does.
Now it's power. That's the problem, isn't it? Like the problem is that Johnson got rid of all the moderates to push through Brexit, didn't he? So we were left with the crazies. And now, like, we have essentially got UKIP in. Well, it's worse, actually. It's like UKIP mixed with the BNP, which mixed with National Front, just desperate bastards. Desperate. Yeah.
I think the other thing is that, of course, all the people that have been voting UKIP, I'm generalizing by saying all, obviously, right? But the people that have been voting UKIP and Brexit Party, they had actually come out mostly of the Conservatives, right? So it's not like this whole other group somewhere that is kind of bolstering the Tory party. They'd splintered off, and now they're just back. So the numbers aren't really changing.
Well, it is, because it's minus 1,058 now. Yes, thank you.
Okay, they are changing, but in the wrong direction for them.
They just hid under the radar as independents, a bunch of them, I think, though, to be fair. Like, you had that in Somerset with Jacob Rees-Mogg, like one of Jacob Rees-Mogg's councils, like the independent, the Lib Dem that won there was just a Tory that went to Lib Dem. There was like defections all over the place. There was it was just a whole mess of crap, which is why in the campaign, we didn't get involved with independents, did we? Because it was just like...
Yeah, that's right.
Much, wasn't it? We've got Larry the Cat in the chat, saying the Medway wipeout. What a spank.
So, I've also been very occupied this afternoon on some family stuff. So I've not actually had a chance to keep up. And it's just amazing hearing all these new things coming through. I mean, tomorrow in the next few days, when people start analysing the data, and beautiful lists. I love lists, right? So when there's some lists of all the councils that are gone and all the councillors that are gone, and all the MPs that are in the places where those councils have gone and who they might be, I did
wonder, like, if somebody goes from the Conservatives and they go independent at the ballot box, is there a really Machiavellian strategy at play? And maybe you sort of alluded to it a minute ago, Tam, but like where somebody can say, okay, look, I'm a Conservative. That is not going to turn any voters on in these local elections. So what I'm going to do is market myself as an independent, lose the blue lapel, get re-elected saying I'm an independent, and then 2 weeks later, I'm going to rejoin the Conservative Party. Has that happened? Do we know?
So it doesn't necessarily even need to happen. They can just prop up a Conservative council, right? They don't need to be in the party as such. But yeah, of course it happens. I mean, so Tan, like you said, we didn't recommend any independents because it's a minefield and there's thousands of them. And actually independents can be a broader spectrum than in Parliament, and broader than the parliamentary parties. So you've got everyone. And without knowing much about them and remember, it's not just having to look at, however many thousand seats there are, but it's like 10 people contesting each of those seats.
Yeah.
So multiply it up, right? That's how much knowledge you'd have to have. Yeah, so we just basically said, look, if there's an incumbent independent, we led at it, vote for your favourite progressive candidate. If it's an incumbent that came second last time, we're not going to recommend them because we don't know anything about them. So again, vote for your favorite progressive. So we ended up making recommendations for about half of the wards. So it's still thousands, obviously, and but for the general election, it's going to be a lot simpler in many ways.
Is it because we're going to have? Aren't you going to run into the same problems that you had before with the boundary changes? Because this is a problem in my parents' constituency in Knotty Ash in Liverpool, as in the Diddy men. That's been turned into West Derby Layfield now. So nothing came up as a... But I mean, it's a solid Labour constituency or ward, so that it didn't really matter. But yeah, are you going to run into the same sort of problems? Is there anything we can do to sort of mitigate that?
Yeah, I mean, even though, like you say, that particular one was a solid Labour ward, we don't know that from the data, right? And technically, there is no previous election data for that ward, even if it's just changed a small bit. Right. So you can't just make an automatic, recommendation.
You don't know where the people from those extra streets voted and that. Okay,
and of course, that's the whole point about gerrymandering, right? And of course, the other thing is that, you could imagine that is being done on purpose. And that making it hard to analyse is part of the game, right?
Yep. Forest of Dean just went green, apparently. Hughes coming in.
Oh,
Forest of Dean just went green.
Is that two full green councils now? Well, not full, but majority councils now.
I don't know.
Because Mid-Suffolk, right?
It hasn't come up on the BBC page yet, but Tim Ballin's saying it in the chat.
I was right about Thanet, wasn't I? That went Labour.
Yeah. And also Manchester's got their first trans councillor. Yes, good stuff.
Wow.
And
guys, could you help me out with this? Because I'll just look it up. Fuck it. Fuck you all. You're not, That's a fucking
do you know what? It's so funny. The other day, I got Tan to come on with the Prime Minister's Question Time commentary with me, and I'm like, Tan, this is called Safe for Work PMQs. You can't swear. And she did really well until the very end. When I was just about to turn off the sound, but before I got a chance to cut her microphone, she went off. Thank fuck for that.
Well, no, that was a fucking disaster because it was going right. We couldn't get the video up.
I couldn't get the video up. I couldn't get the sound to come through to you, which was annoying. I couldn't get the sound to come through to you through my computer. So yeah, it was all a bit of a. It's one of those where I press go live and just everything turns to shit.
Speaking of going live, obviously I can't see this on YouTube because I'm here and it would mess with the audio. But if people are watching, go share it on Twitter and stuff. Get more people in.
We've got loads of people in the chat. Forest to Green. We've got Forest to Green it's in no overall control. The Greens are the largest party though, so that's coming in.
I'm right about Thanet, by the way. Labour took Thanet and they also took Medway. I mean, these are like UKIP areas, really strong Leave areas. These are like Farage land.
So is Brexit dead now?
Oh God, please say it's dead.
I hope so. But sadly, Farage lives.
And we're still out of the EU.
Life's there. Some plain. I'm not going to say that. I will. Can I say it? No.
Well, if voting for the Brexit Party or UKIP in the previous last two general elections, right, and obviously the Brexit Party came out at the last minute and made a deal, right? If that was such a threat this time, but no one showed up for any of them this time, presumably those single issue parties they're not really commanding a single issue of the country anymore, right?
Yeah.
Well, no, but then they're going to go, oh, it's because we got Brexit done. And then you look at things like, people were trying to talk up Sunak's record, right? And they're going, but he went over to Northern Ireland, to fix the fuck up his own party caused. Yep. He didn't go over there to do anything amazing. He was going over there just to sweep up their own shit.
But it's like Schrodinger's Brexit. It's both done and not done at the same time, right? Because all the things that are going great, well, that's Brexit, and all the things that are going bad, well, we didn't get Brexit done yet.
Yeah.
So
I find Brexit painful on a personal level, being the only person to have visited every country in the world without flying. Might have mentioned that in the past.
Had to get that in.
Had to get that in.
What about your island, dickhead?
Most of the world, but that's another story. Do you know what? When I met people over in Panama, and I'll be at the bar and say, "See that light? See that green light at the end of the dock there?" They'll point it out, and I'll say that's my island, and they go, "How'd you get an island?" So I won it in a game show. And that's amazing. And usually they'll just call bullshit, but then they'll look it up on Google and they go, "Oh my God, that's amazing!" And then I'll say, "Yes, that's the second coolest thing I've ever done."
Nice.
It never got me anywhere. Anyway, but yeah, one of the things that I learned very quickly, traveling to every country in the world, is horribly, most of the world is pretty poor, relatively, compared with us.
And then when you rock up telling total strangers about your fucking island, they're like,
who's this prick?
But like, you know, we're one of the richest countries in the world, right?
Apparently.
Does it feel like it?
Starving.
Does it feel like it? No.
So I was going to just
lots
chip
of
in.
countries that don't have any money and can't buy our stuff. And
we've got a shit ton of money.
We live in a rich neighborhood, and we've sacked off this rich neighborhood to walk 5,000 miles like some kind of deranged proclaimer. And try and sell shit to people who have no money and can't afford to buy our shit.
Yeah, I mean, in the 5th or 6th richest country in the world, you should not be working full time and struggling to pay the rent, right?
Yes.
It's that simple. It's that simple.
Yeah.
It's a political choice, which is why we are. But what were you going to say something, Aid? Sorry, man.
Sorry, Aid.
Yeah, no, I was just going to sort of chip in a minute ago about the single issue parties, like the advent of your Brexit and your reform and all of that stuff. I feel like that kind of posturing, that like we have to leave the EU. Okay, well, we've left. Okay, well now we have to leave it properly, or now we have to pull up the drawbridge and stop the immigrants. Now we've got to be harder on asylum seekers. I think to some extent, and this is largely the culture war thing, it's like finding little pinch points that continue to divide people. I think to some extent that works. That will capture the imagination of people who just want something quick and dramatic. It successfully distracts them and stops them looking at the myriad of other fuck ups out there. But I think the difference is that where we're at now, we're so deep in this sort of economic, political sinkhole. The NHS is collapsing, cost of living crisis, housing crisis, health service crisis. Like there's just everywhere you look, every fucking industry and department is just in a state of chaos. So a little bit of distraction might work in 2015, 2017, 2019, but as real shit starts to get a lot harder for most people, then you get like a Brexit party or a reform going, hey, vote for us because we want women to be women or something. People might bite onto that. They'll bite onto that a little bit.
Well,
and go, he's speaking sense. But when they look back at their energy bills, their mortgages, their rents, all of the rest of it, then they're like, well, hang on a second, actually, like maybe a little bit, but actually what's really important is that my kids can fucking afford a house.
Yeah.
Well, the bullshit's over, isn't it?
Yeah.
We have a John Mortar. A wild John Mortar has entered the chat.
Hey, John.
Hello, John. How you doing?
Hello, everybody. You all right?
Yeah, pretty good. Better now you're here. Ovs.
Well, I used to that to all the boys, but enough of that.
So this is John Mortar, famous for getting Rage Against the Machine to #1 in 2009 against X Factor, amongst a bunch of other stuff. But you were also instrumental in setting up this website, weren't you, with Josh?
Well, to be fair, they did the majority of the hard graft. To be fair,
you just made
that part of it I can't really claim because I did some good Google sheets though, didn't I, Josh? To be fair, I mean, you know,
it's worth saying
Google sheets.
Yeah, it's worth saying that like it's a volunteer effort. We've had a team of amazing people working on it in our spare time. We've basically this is the democracy sector, right? We're all fucking volunteers. Excuse me.
I thought you were funded by the Labour Party and the Lib Dems and the Greens, Josh.
Yeah, we're simultaneously paid by everyone.
We're being funded apparently via some fucking mad series of conspiracies, and I'm allowed to say it now and be angry about it online now. But we were getting kind of people just saying, "Oh, who funds you?
Who funds this tactical vote site?"
Yeah, and I'm like, here's a list of 11 lovely people on our crowdfunder. You know, they're funding us. They're great.
We've got a crowdfunder. Like and they thought that you were just like, they thought you'd go to the trouble of trying to go through the mind fuck of trying to sort out how to get people to vote tactically in a local election, just so you'd get a bit of money on a fucking crowdfunder. Yeah. I don't think people realise how hard it is to do what has been done with this.
Yeah, and not just what we've done, but basically what everyone in any kind of campaigning organization does, right? We're all either working a day job and trying to do this on the side, or spending half our time just trying to get anyone to give us a small amount of money. And especially in democracy, because democracy is really not that interesting in many ways, right? So yeah, I mean, so many people I know in campaigning organizations are basically doing it for free. And what's amazing is that we can pull off stuff like we just did, essentially, like I say again, with basically zero resources, with enthusiastic people that are really good at what they do. And imagine what we could do with just like 1% of what the Tories have spent just on the local elections, which it's probably millions of pounds, right?
We've got number 3 asking, how did the tactical vote site get started? Whose idea was it, Josh?
Whose idea? Actually, I don't even know whose idea it was, but like, it's one of those crazy ideas that always comes up. And, you just look at the local elections, you go, oh, it's too big, too many people. And no one cares anyway, so what's the point, right? But so what motivated me, was seeing on social media people sharing the other tactical voting websites, which are only giving advice for the general elections. And
yeah, I saw that as well. There was a video going around, wasn't there? And I went, oh, great. And I clicked on the link and then it went, this is just for the general election. I was like,
yeah, no, that's it. And so it's like, okay, well, look, that's going to keep on happening. It's going to keep on getting shared. There are 2 ways to fix that, right? Last year, I did a really quick video, which went a bit viral, saying, look, this is what you do. You go on Wikipedia, you look at your award, you try and work out who came second, and then you go to another website called Who Can I Vote For, work out who your candidates are this time, and then you go and show up, right? And everyone was like, yeah, we've got a thing. I was like, right, what if we just put a postcode insert in front of that, postcode search, right? So now we just basically go and find that information. The other little bit in the middle is that, of course, there's multiple candidates, and so you need to kind of add it all up and do some averaging to work out which party got the most votes second, not just which candidates. And then that's all we did, really. But yeah, that's kind of the long answer to that question of who came up with it. But
the problem is, though, Josh, like as you discover with things like campaigning too, and because everyone's attention spans is so ruined nowadays, if you give people more than 1 or 2 steps, they're just going to go, fuck that, I'm not going to bother. So you have to literally spoon feed it to people. Yeah. You have to make it as simple and as user-friendly as possible. But in order for it to look like with any skill, like, a trained ballet star makes it look easy, don't they? You've got to put in all the work behind it. And like with all the different wards and councils all under one, it's so fiddly.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I was so impressed. When you showed me the site, I was like, how the fuck have you done that?
Yeah, I mean, some people on Twitter are like, oh yeah, but you can just look that up yourself, can't you? It's like, yeah, you can. But what if you don't even know that you could, right?
Yeah.
What if you don't know you could, or what if you don't even know tactical voting's a thing? And also, by the way, there's a link next to your wards that takes you to going and looking it up yourself, so you can go and check it if you want, right?
This is, I mean, we had problems even, I mean, again, not knocking people, but we had problems even trying to get people just to scroll down on the website that was created. It's just like, just fucking scroll down, man. Like we've provided everything for you here. If something's wrong, click a link, it's like,
There's a design principle which basically says, do the hard work so that your users don't have to, right?
Yeah.
So the hard thing is designing something really simple, That's the hard thing. And we could have just put a spreadsheet on the internet, and we will open up some data to make sure that, people can actually see, some of the reasoning behind, and also the maths. But if you just give people a spreadsheet, a lot of people just switch off. They can't work with that,
Yeah, they will. Or and that's the problem. Like there was just, sadly, the sad thing you're going to get when you do anything though online is you're going to get loads of people that just want to disrupt it. You're going to get people that want to, for the sake of it, be suspicious. And I don't know why, because it's not like we were saying, go here and vote for one party. We're all kind of like, I think, all the people involved in this probably have their own party they align with.
Of course, yeah.
It's not like it's a Labour thing or a Lib Dem thing or a Green thing. It's a progressive vote thing.
That was the other thing. Sorry, Tan.
No, I'm finished.
I was just going to say, I had one interesting exchange with someone on Twitter, oh, you're biased. It's like, yeah, it's called Stop the Tories, right? I mean, yes, we are. And they were like, no, but that's not what I mean. You're
against Tories.
Yeah. And I was
what's your problem with that? Like,
but I think it's because somewhere we'd said that we were unbiased. And what we meant was, we're not biased towards any of the other opposition parties.
Yeah.
And it is possible to be both. You can be biased against the Conservatives and not biased to, towards anyone else. And I just don't think people could understand that. And again, like you're saying, of course, we've all got our own kind of preferences, but actually the primary goal of this was to unseat as many Tories as we can.
And
people showed up, didn't they?
It fucking happened, didn't it? I mean, the beauty. Sorry, carry on.
I was just going to say, like, so I think the big thing for me with this was tactical voting as a whole is like, so I feel like a lot of us get behind this idea that what we really want to see is proportional representation. Like, we want to see a more sensible way of governing where we take the best ideas from across the floor, thrash them out. They're discussed and debated in a mature and like measured way where we get to the best solution that makes sense for the most amount of people, like true politics at its nature. And we're not going to get that in a first past the post arena. And neither one of the mainstream parties are really going to get behind proportional representation. So we have to take that down to the next tier, out to the electorate, and almost sort of replicate it in a wholesale tactical voting realm. So what does that look like? That looks like this sort of proposition that these guys have put together. We empower people with the data, with the information that they need to make the decision to get what looks a little bit like PR, in the sense that, okay, look, we'll have a Lib Dem councillor over here. We'll have a Green councillor over there. Yes, we'll have 3 Labour ones over here. And ultimately, we get in a situation where we have got those different decision makers from different parties coming together. And hopefully, I don't know, this is my hope, is that at the general election, if a similar thing plays out, then we get not like a hung parliament, but some sort of coalition between Libs, Labour, Greens, SNP, maybe a
Probably
collection.
More like it depends on how things go in Scotland, because Scotland's got up,
but enough of a pick and mix of different parties and people with different political persuasions where they go, okay, this makes sense, let's get PR in so we can actually formalize it, and then we can actually condemn the Tories to the dustbin forever, pretty much.
The Tories would be destroyed by PR. That's why they're so scared of it. Now, I didn't think that Labour would necessarily get a majority in the next election, but considering what the SNP are going through right now, I do actually think that Labour could make up the 20 seats in Scotland. I mean, at the moment, they've got 1. No, they need 20.
But they're polling well, right?
Yes, because the SNP have just, I don't know what, they've had like some kind of midlife crisis or something. They've stolen money and bought a camper van.
I was saying on my podcast the other day, I was like, what is it that they've blown that 600 grand on that's so bad that they would rather we all think that she's Rose fucking West, like having a garden dug up, like she can't say where the money is gone. She's like, I'll let people look at me like I'm a fucking murderer rather than tell them where the 600 grand is gone. So it's so bad.
She just wants to win a Bago. She just wants to win a Bago, like at the end of Sneakers. That 90s film. She's like, I just need to win a Bago.
Why did she have to do it? Like, it's because she, like, I had a lot of time for Sturgey, actually, even though, like, and I have a lot of time. I have a lot of time for the Scots, man. I understand why they want independence. I want independence from the Tories. I get it. I get the premise of their argument, even though it screws us. Because, you know, they've if you look at back, because sometimes I just watch the 1997 election results to fucking feel something, right? Just to feel happy, just to see Tories cry. And you look back, you look at the way that the SNP were kind of edging in like the 97 election. You look at like how they built themselves up to what they became. It's impressive. It is an impressive movement. But it turns out they've got some kind of like weird camper van racket going on. I don't know what's going on.
It's just so bizarre.
Here's my theory. Do you want to hear my theory?
Does it involve Bullseye?
Probably involves balls.
No.
Here's what you could have won. It's a caravan.
I think, right, so we don't know who the ultimate donor or lender was of the Boris Johnson money.
Okay.
And I reckon Sturgeon took that 600 grand. It was funneled through the chair of the BBC guy. He loaned it to Boris. It all adds up somehow.
Well, I was going to say something like that, like, oh, she secretly gave it to Labour or like to... You'd never give it to the Tories. Jesus Christ.
So the interesting thing about that, right, is that there's another side of the story of why people get loans, and I don't think it's talked about very much. And of course, it's basically how rich people avoid tax, right? Because it's not income. So you continually live in debt. And there's this phrase that I'm going to get wrong, but it's about paying it when you die, basically, right? So you pay your tax when you die, right? And so rich people get loans, and basically, you know, don't pay them off and get another loan, and because that's a different type of income that isn't taxed.
Yeah.
You can literally just search for how to use loans to avoid tax on Google, and you'll just find so much stuff.
Oh,
So it's not
All
just
billionaires
he got a loan. It's like, no, this is the normal thing they just do.
That's what Trump does. That's what Elon Musk does.
That's what
That's what
they
Bill
all
Gates
do.
does.
Yeah.
They all do it. They go to a bank and say, "Can I have a loan of $11 million, please?" And the bank's like, "Yeah, all right."
bunch of slags, honestly.
Don't pay tax on your debt.
Can't tax it. It's a loan.
Like, and yet we're all getting stuck, and we'll get sent to fucking prison if we like dodge a little bit of tax or something.
Well,
And you know,
have you seen now that they rushed through the law about protesting, and one of them is you can't link arms, and the fine is unlimited. This blows my mind. Like these water companies that are pumping shit into our water courses, the fine is limited, and it costs more to fix the problem than it does to pay the fine. So they pay the fine. Our fines for linking arms at a protest is unlimited. Unlimited.
Fines are just a cost of doing business, right? And it's and where does that cost go? It goes on to the cost of the service to the end user, right? So we end up paying those fines essentially, and so that's what happens. They don't really care, and it's the same with the fines. Remember that the Conservatives paid because they overspent, right? So they, in the election that they overspent in, they ended up paying a fine for that, i.e. they were guilty of it, and so they had to pay that fine. But cost of business, isn't it? Right. So if you know that the fine's going to be quite small, you break the law.
Well, that's his job, isn't it? In Fight Club, that's the narrator's job. Is he's working for an automobile company, and they have to do that equation of how many people are going to die from this defect, and how much are they going to sue us for, or their family are going to sue us for, and is that less than a full recall of the product and to fix the problem?
Yeah. So a fine needs to be business crippling if it's at that scale, right? And so a fine in political terms needs to be basically election ending, right? It needs to be so risky they can't do it.
Yeah.
And it isn't. And so basically you're saying, what is it? There's a great meme about what is it? Payable by a fine means illegal for a cost or something, illegal for a price.
Well, you've got people who've got like sports cars who park where they like in London because it's only a 60 quid fine for them. They don't care. That's
nothing,
Do
you
want to hear an interesting? I say interesting. You can be the judge of that afterwards. But I had a conversation once with a good friend of mine back in the day, and he came from quite an affluent family. He went to private school. I did not. I went to comprehensive. I grew up on a council estate. Completely different life experiences, right? And we got in a conversation once about parking tickets, really mundane, boring stuff. And then we got onto like my theory of how I thought they should be punished for or whatever. And I said, I think you should take the market value of the car and then like divide it by a percentage, and then whatever that is. So if it's a Bentley, that motherfucker's paying like tens of thousands. If it's an old, banged up, it's a student in a Y-Reg Fiesta or something, like don't fucking take 60 quid off that guy. Like he's not going to eat like next week.
But this would mean that like rich people would just buy bangers because they're like that.
Maybe but the point I'm getting to is that his perspective on it was one. Blew my mind. Like he was like, no, because a £50 fine, that's how much a parking fine costs. And I was like, yeah, but like, what's the point of having a £50 fine if this guy in a Lotus or a Ferrari can just afford to pay it and park wherever he likes? Like it should be reflective.
Exactly. Progressive tax. I was just going to say
in
that.
Finland, your parking fee fines and your speeding fines, I think, are based on your income, and so speeding fines of over 100,000 krona or euro, I guess, in Finland have been given out. George, thank you very much for your £2 super chat, saying they loan to themselves, which is true. They just loan. They set up their own company and they loan to themselves. And there are so many tax dodgers. And what we need to get someone who is one of these accountants whose job it is to hide the money of the rich. And we need to bring them on side. Like Catch Me If You Can. That's what we need to do, right? We need to bring these criminal accountants on side and say, right, tell us how to close every freaking loophole. So if you live and work in this country, you pay tax like everyone else who lives and works in this country.
Well,
who could close that loophole? The next government, right? And essentially the argument is, but all the rich people will leave. The counter to that is, but they're not any value to us anyway.
We're not paying
they're just using our
anything.
roads.
Who
They're
cares?
using our electricity.
Yeah.
They're using our resources.
They're using our hospitals.
Their
and
private
then...
schools are getting 6 million from the taxpayer for their shooting ranges.
Oh God, everything should be fucked, isn't it?
But in more good news, the Conservatives have lost another 3 seats and are now on minus 1,061. Yes!
Keep going, Graham.
Ooh,
I'm almost there.
voting.
Oh, that's
That is
insane.
beautiful, with,
Work.
227
When they
of
said they could lose
230.
Sorry, I was going to say when they said that they could lose 1,000 councils, that was just a goal for us, right? It's like,
Well,
right.
that's what I was thinking. That's what I was holding out for the whole time. Because, yeah, as we were saying at the beginning, I think it was before you joined, they were floating it out as damage limitation, like big time. They were like, "Oh yeah, we'll never." Old like dead-eyed Scully was like, "Oh yeah, we'll never lose that. We'll never lose."
I know. Just
If we only lose 800, it'll be fine. It'll be great. We'll look good.
It was actually a PR spin that
Yeah, of course it was.
accidentally has worked. That they have actually lost over 1,000. They were looking around about 750. I was talking to a couple of the Tory candidates today. I went to the Chelmsford count.
Chelmsford.
Chelmsford. That's how you say it. If you're from there, you say Chelmsford. So,
If you're from Essex,
which is a brilliant experience today because they just kept losing. It's fantastic. Just really good to watch.
Were you just laughing out loud the whole time?
Oh, it was glorious. It was just so good.
Oh, explain it to us. Paint a picture. Were there tears? Was there glumness?
Oh God Almighty! Yeah, I mean, it was like So I go in, and for those Chelmsford, not Chelmsford, it's Chelmsford. All right, people. Us Essex lot. You go in, and you could see instantly. You had the side over there were the Tories, and on the other side were the Lib Dems. Right, because it's Lib Dems v Tories in Chelmsford. Labour, Green, you don't get anywhere there. So, I do actually know a couple of the Tories, right? So I sort of spotted a couple and said, "Oh, hello, yeah, it's not going good for you guys today, is it? What's going on there?" And oh my God, it was just like it was this Pandora's box opening. It was just like, Rishi's done this, he can't do that. What the bloody hell was Truss trying? Oh my God, and it was just glorious. It was like they were pouring out souls, and
Beautiful.
it was glorious. And then Vicky Ford MP was walking around as well, looking really, really like frosty as hell.
Good.
I didn't get a chance to say anything to her, annoyingly, because I really wanted to. But it was just. But you could just every result that came in was just one after another, and they weren't just winning. The Lib Dems weren't just winning in a lot of the seats. They were just crashing it. They were absolutely smashing it to bits.
So my hometown, Maidenhead.
Yeah.
Theresa May, like Conservative stronghold. They've just had their councillor who's been in that role for fucking years ousted. I think he's a guy. He's like in his 50s. He's cemented into that role in this conservative Riverside fucking utopia for them, right? And he's been ousted by a 22-year-old Lib Dem. And the picture of the Lib Dem, the kid, he's like 22 and he's like grinning like a Cheshire
Baby
cat.
face.
He's so happy.
I'm looking forward to more maps like this, right? Basically, where you got some little bits of blue here. In quite a blue constituency, a very blue constituency. And of course, that side, basically people know exactly what to do. And the MP in that place should be terrified right now.
They
absolutely
lost
terrified.
all of their councillors.
Look out tomorrow for all these.
Gone.
Yeah, and it's happening all over the place. This is just one example, right?
So in Essex, I never thought it'd happen in Essex. Hey, John, because
I know,
especially Southern Essex. Because like that is a real shock. I mean, we're no overall control here, but we're edging in. But then there are like weird tribal things, whereas like Castle in Colchester's always green. It's like there's shit going on there. But like Southern Essex, like I'm really shocked by especially Kent as well. And it's like the blue wall just doesn't really kind of exist as it did. What I'd like to see is a map of the UK with the last local election results with the current, because then you'll get like a kind of broad picture of how it's actually looking. I think a lot of the red there was really shocking results, wasn't there, for Labour, like Swindon, and what was the other one that was a bit of a surprise? There were a few that were just like a proper out of the blue surprise, and again, it wasn't just like a scrape; it was a thrashing, and it was red. It was like people going from Tory over to red. And it's like, they didn't even make a little stop at Lib Dem Town on the way. They just went straight over. It's just brilliant. Like, I was glued to it I've had 3 hours sleep and 3 whiskey and cokes, and I'm very happy right now. Like, I did crack out a bit of D-Ream earlier on, I'm not going to lie to you.
You can
Asif, our friend Asif on the chat has just dropped in a link to the Guardian opinion that's just been put up. The local picture is good for Keir Starmer. The national predictions look even better. Evidence of a tactical pincer movement, Josh, to defeat the Tories shows how worried they should be about the general election. And
maybe the Guardian
something that a lot of the commentators have missed, talking about the prospects for Labour's general election. Is a bit sort of wishful thinking from the right-wing press, because they're like, oh, well, we didn't win that many new councillors. Yeah, but people were voting tactically because they want the Tories out. And a big shout out to Ruth Guthrie there with seeing the commentary, GB News viewers compared with yours. Apparently GB News has got like 50 viewers and we have like 500. So shout out to GBBs there. Thanks very much for the super chat there, Ruth.
Yeah, because we're the fucking daddies. Yeah, it's because our girl Marina committed a murder on me Freeze Mog, metaphorically speaking. Go fucking MI5 kind of coming in soon. But I've just had a comment on Twitter that the one and only Nitin I always get this wrong, I always pronounce it. Nitin Sawhney.
Nitin Sawhney.
Sorry, I didn't mean any disrespect. I'm just is watching and says, very good news indeed. Hopefully the beginning of a greatly overdue demise for the most disgusting, corrupt and malicious bunch of misanthropic charlatans since we discovered massive bloated turds could speak. Bring on the GE.
Oh yeah.
But he's tuning in, watching. So hello.
Since we discovered massive bloated turds could speak, that is a beautiful turn of phrase.
That is like poetry. So thank you, Nitin. Thanks for tuning in. But Asif, was it Asif? Our Asif?
Yeah, Asif Kapadia.
Our Asif. Asif. Wicked.
The director of Amy and Senna. The Oscar-winning movie Senna. I
just can't believe he talks to me. Like,
I know.
People every day.
I think we should also spare a thought for the loss of UKIP today as well. The remaining 6 seats have finally gone. It's finished.
It's like like a nice little should have sent.
They don't even have a pub to go to anymore, do they?
That turned to Lib Dem or Labour. I think that actual
the pub.
Not the pub.
The constituency.
That went Labour, I think.
Yeah, it went Labour.
Brilliant. So not only did they lose their pub, they lost their potentially racist representative.
They've got nowhere to go to tonight to drown their sorrows.
Well, they're going to move away, apparently, aren't they, to Europe, to Spain, but they're probably going to be allowed there 90 days.
Yeah.
No, you got to be some digital nomad. So they'll have to, start some YouTube channel or something.
It's almost as though they voted to curtail our horizons.
I hope whoever buys that pub or starts running it, I hope it becomes the biggest Ramona metropolitan elite gay pub.
The Rainbow
There's a
Arms.
gay bar, a gay sauna.
Trans friendly. They should just call it the Remain.
Yeah.
Or something.
Yeah. Like, I'm straight, but I would go in there and suck a dick just to piss off the locals.
Yeah,
I would totally. Yeah,
the remaining unicorn or something.
Remaining unicorn. Where did that come from? Beautiful.
I just like it. It's got a good ring to it.
Yeah. The remaining unicorn tofu gargler. Just everything.
Tofu gargler.
Kombucha on tap.
And instead of having obviously really offensive dolls, you just have massive dildos hanging from the rafters as you go in.
Yeah.
Oh, talking of Asif, here he is. Apparently.
No.
Yeah.
Asif.
There we are.
I'm gonna have to move me out the way.
Rockstar.
There you go. Hey, there he is. Hi, Asif. How you doing, mate?
Hello, everyone.
Where are you?
I'm in New York.
Oh my God! It's like Hollywood royalty. Come in to say hello.
Yeah.
How's it
Hello.
going?
Yeah. Yeah, good. It's sunny here.
It looks
Yeah,
bloody
skyscrapers.
lovely. Oh my God, I really want to go to New York. Badly.
I've just been working here this week. So I've been kind of 5 hours behind, obviously. So
Oh, shit.
But anyway, well done, everyone. Just thought I'd say hello.
No, it's been a really eventful time, hasn't it?
I just sent you a Guardian piece. I don't know if you've seen it. Where they also
Yeah, we were just talking
mentioned,
about it. We were just talking about it. Really interesting. Talking about the tactical pincers. Someone put in the chat.
The
Bring
pincer
on the
movement.
tactical pincers.
They could have fucking named us, couldn't they? Jesus.
Have they started demonizing tactical voting yet? Because that's coming next, isn't it?
Oh, I'm
surely?
ready
we'll get that.
when they do. Because,
There was.
I've got
is it vote rigging? Is it like, are they trying to sway
well,
communists?
if they
trying to
do, then
steal-
I'll just bring up the 6-page handout that they gave in the Daily Mail about how to tactically vote. What was it for Brexit? No, it wasn't Brexit, was it?
No,
Yeah,
it
it
was.
was.
the Brexit Party,
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah. So the obvious argument, right, is if you don't like tactical voting, then let's do away with the need for it and let's make our votes count, right? Let's have proportional representation. Then we don't need tactical voting anymore. It's very simple. Make our votes count.
Yeah. Bing PR. Asif, whereabouts in New York are you, mate?
I'm in Tribeca.
Oh, fantastic.
I'm next to this big beam.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I'm walking here.
Have you seen this?
Things you could do with technology.
Anish
amazing, isn't it?
Anish Kapoor's new work of art, which is stuck
wow.
underneath the building.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah,
That is
Tribeca.
well cool. It looks like the orb that's used in Alex Prager, the photographer, has created like a really amazing new short film. And it looks just like the orb that's featured in that. I don't know if you've seen it. It's amazing.
There's a big beam like this in Chicago. So I think he must have been paid a huge amount of money to do one in New York.
Oh,
But
wow.
the way it's designed is it's stuck under this building. So it's quite.
That's so cool.
It's like
Kinda
it's
crazy,
it's
isn't
washed
it?
under a very expensive skyscraper.
You know the cube that's on a corner of the cube? It's a piece of art in New York. It's like a red cube. Looks like a massive dice. You can turn it.
Yes.
You can actually go over and you can push it. It actually moves. If you push it, you can turn it on its.
What?
Is that near
Yeah.
Mommy or something? Is that near the where the
Yeah.
galleries are?
It's a public art thing in New York, but you can actually
MoMA.
turn it.
Right.
I found that out when I was drunk once in New York.
You fell on it.
Asif, what are you doing in New York?
I'm working on a film, so I'm just doing a bit of. I had a few meetings on a particular film right now, so I'm here. Was working this week, and then I'm doing a bit of stuff early next week, and then I'm back again.
Brilliant.
Oh wow, cool.
And are you up with all the local election results in the UK?
Have you
Yeah, exactly. Now I've been watching it and reading it while I've been here. Actually, it's almost
Oh.
easier when you're away from London. Actually, when you're away from work and family, to kind of. I mean, there's less distractions in a way, so I've been probably paying more attention than I would do. But yeah, it's been amazing.
Well, to be honest with you, if you're 5 hours like behind, it probably was easier for you to watch the results coming in, to be fair.
Yeah.
Whereas like
exactly.
I've had like 2 hours sleep and I'm currently like just blinking a lot and like, I don't have any proper real thoughts in my head left because I kept like waking up in the night and then just kind of barely focusing on the seats. And then going back to sleep. So you probably got to see more of it in a kind of like see it through.
Yeah, I would say more of the results coming through last night. Obviously, because I was still awake. So.
It was beautiful from the start, to be fair. We got off to a cracking start with a couple of like really nice. I think it was a couple of gains, wasn't there, and a hold for Labour. But from the onset, like the Tories just have not caught up, not once. Obviously not, because I've suffered. What are we on now? Have they all been counted yet?
No,
That was
some of them aren't going to be counted till Tuesday. They've sacked it off for the long weekend.
I remember.
Yeah, they
I
got home.
almost admire that approach. They're like, well, this is some bullshit. I just
it's a
I reckon
week,
the weekend off.
isn't it?
I remember early on in the count, someone was saying, "Oh yeah, no, we'll get all the rural councils later," and then the numbers might start changing back in the Conservative I can't even finish the sentence because it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
I know, but then we've got 3 left to count, and we're currently on 1,061 losses for the Tories, 527 gains for Labour, 416 for Lib Dem, 240 for Green. Jesus, they've done well. Independent 81, RA. I don't know what's RA.
Residents Association.
Yeah, residents.
I have no clue what that is, but that's minus 24 anyway. Oh no, it's minus 81 for independents. So yeah.
What's reform like at the moment?
Terrible.
Terribly. Zero councillors. Oh no, 6 councillors, 0 councils. So yeah, the UKIP minus 25. It's glorious. I just the best bit was last year when they had to extend the graph. Sean, I remember Sean putting in our group chat on the last year, like they had to extend the graph so they could fit in like.
Oh, that's right.
Tory losses, yeah. It was a kind of good extender, you know. He was like, yes.
Shall we say a few things about voter ID?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, can I start just by saying how funny it is, how darkly funny it is that the first time they tried to introduce voter disenfranchisement, that they, even with that, they fucked it up so bad. Like, first losses in modern memory.
But as I always say, the Tories are really good at one thing in particular, and that's creating activists.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. But no, I 100% agree with you on that. It's like not even, they've pulled out every dirty trick they can, boundaries.
Yeah.
You know, moving the boundaries. And they were blaming the boundaries for their own losses. And it's like, you the boundaries.
You know the easy way to win elections? It's do things people like.
Yeah.
Did you see the meme?
Oh, leave it out, Josh. Come on.
Was it Graham? Was it you that shared the meme earlier where it's like the guy in the office and they're doing suggestions? It's like, how can we win more votes? And then one person's like, you know, should we distract more or should we look at culture wars? And then the one guy says like, should we try to like effectively govern? They just like throw him out the fucking window.
But the thing is, like, if you had good ideas and you genuinely wanted to come through with them and people believed you, why would you need to do all the things that they do? Why would you need to pretend you're not a Tory on your flyer? Why would you need to have a TV show and interview each other about your crappy policies? Why would you need to introduce a voter ID? Why would you need to do things really dodgy, like do your own voter registration that goes suspiciously through your offices before it goes anywhere else?
Yes.
Why would you need to do all this stuff if you had things people wanted? And the thing is, it's not hard to do things people want because there's polling on it. Right? You can just go, oh, well, what do people want? Oh, we'll go do some of that and get elected.
Bad Bones in the chat. Bad Bones in the chat is saying, I just don't get it. We gerrymandered, tried voter repression, and did a culture war. Or we maybe just bad at life and our job.
Instigated, like mad, like, I mean, not just that. I mean, one of the worst aspects of it was they literally created hate crimes. I mean, there have been reported hate crimes against the trans community, the LGBT community generally, people of colour, because of the shit that they're putting out. So they've literally caused all this to happen. And the policy that they're using to try and justify that is totally unenforceable and unworkable because it's literally illegal. And if you think about it, like I'm with Aid, like if you think about how much money they've thrown at their campaigning too, and we've come in broke as fuck and just like pincered the shit out of them. So yeah, like I'd like to see the kind of impact that we've had, like see if we have had some kind of, I'm certain we must have.
Like I said earlier, we'll try and work out some correlations, and like we're not going to claim anything, I don't think, but we'll try and show what possibly did happen, right? But the main thing is that people were enthusiastic about it because a lot of people, you know, are always very critical of tactical voting. It doesn't work, people don't understand it or whatever, you know. It's like, well, actually, you know, if you ask people and you don't use the words tactical voting, people often do talk about what they do in their local area to try and create the result they want, you know. And some of them will say, well, you know, I do kind of believe in the Labour Party, but in my area, what's the point? Or, you know, I really want to vote for the Greens, but in my area, they're talking about tactical voting. So like they do it. People have been doing it for decades, right?
Yeah.
And if, like I said on Twitter earlier, if you give people a tool, they'll use it. You know, it's really simple.
Yeah, my nan taught me about tactical voting when I was a young, like in my early, just as I was becoming a teenager, because I knew my nan wasn't Lib Dem, but that was literally the only option that she had in the village to vote for a progressive party to keep out a Conservative. So she would vote tactically for Lib Dem, and I was like, well, why'd you do that, Nan? And she told me about it, like when I was really quite young, and. Yeah, so it has been happening for decades as a workaround because the system is unjust.
That's something that happened in Liverpool. People voted tactically for the Lib Dems because they knew that Tories would never get anywhere in Liverpool. So we had a Lib Dem council for 13 years between 97 and 2010. The corruption of Derek Hatton and his lot had a little bit to do with that. But I just want to say a big thank you to Robert Duckham for the $5 super chat saying, Larry the cat, the only sane creature working at number 10.
Oh man, I think we should make like the Larry the cat the interim prime minister.
I was having a chat with someone else earlier at the pub on the way here. Just random person. Everyone's talking about it, right? All the other people at our table were talking about what's going on, and they made this really interesting point about how if you now kind of go over the next few months and look at the civil service, right? If you because the civil service right now, if they are feeling like the government are kind of not in control anymore, they'll essentially just sit on their hands, or what's the point in trying to implement anything new from the government if they're not going to be in charge, right?
Yeah.
So the next thing that starts happening is that the heads of departments, they might start looking for other jobs because, again, what's the point, right? Often, especially if they've been appointed by the Conservatives, and especially if it was just if it was a favour job. So one thing to look out for, if we know that the writing is really on the wall, is if the heads of departments start leaving. Right, so that's something to look out for, and that's the kind of thing that will never get into the press because it's boring, right? But it's a really big indicator of the government has lost control, and it's not because the civil service is against the government or woke or any of that shit. It's just like, well, but things might change, and we need to be thinking long term. We can't be trying to implement new things now, So again, see if that starts happening. It'd be a really interesting one.
There's talk of reshuffle as well, wasn't there? Alistair Campbell tweeted about that earlier.
I think that will happen.
Rees-Mogg thinks that there should be a general election if there's a new prime minister. So
fucking brilliant. I mean,
he does. He does. Like, was it 2 years ago? And I'm sure he feels that way now.
They've had three
leaders. A new clip or an old clip? When did he say that?
It's an old one, but it's worth sharing. Yeah. But yeah, we've had 3 new leaders since then. So.
Where is Asif? He looks like he's in front of Radio City or somewhere. This is beautiful Art Deco building or something.
Similar architect, but it's actually a really cool hotel, the Roxy Hotel.
The Roxy Hotel.
Yeah.
Oh man, that sounds like somewhere I'd like to stay.
You cool bugger.
It's great because they have like live,
cool.
They have live music every night in the hotel, a jazz band. And it's amazing. So you basically just have like live music in your hotel lobby, because there's anyway. Yeah,
that sounds amazing. Like you're just fucking strolling around New York, just like with your coffee, just like blue.
When you're in New York, you should always walk.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So you were going to say something about voter ID, Josh, and what's the feeling on it, and how do you think you'd do anything different if there were a general election, or would we give out more information within the idea of voting tactically, actually remind people or give them warning?
So the first really quick point is that there were probably more people affected by voter ID today and disenfranchised and not able to vote than have ever been convicted or found to do any voter fraud in our entire history of recording it, right? So immediately today, voter ID was a bigger threat to our democracy than voter fraud was, right? And actually the bigger problem we have is election fraud. And like I said earlier, the Conservatives have been convicted of that, right, and paid a fine.
Yeah.
So voter ID, not a problem. Of course, voter ID existing now is a problem, right? But I feel like that actually, either way it went after these elections, it was probably a good outcome. bear with me, right? So it's ahead of a general election. We've all been given a head start. And if the outcome was everyone got their ID and it all went great, then awesome, we're ready for the general election, right? The other outcome, which is the one we're looking at now, of course, is that it's a scandal. It's an absolute scandal, right? Because hundreds of people were turned away, and you're all seeing stories of people across the political spectrum, across ages, being turned away. That will make the news, right? And if that makes the news, then again, the same thing will happen. People will now know about it. They'll get ready. So in many ways, the Conservatives have shot themselves in the foot by doing it this early. They should have done it before the next general election, because doing it now has made it a story. Doing it now is going to give people to get time to get prepared.
It is a story, and it's not. Yeah, it's not a good one. There was something I forgot what I was going to say. Don't worry. But look, this just literally just fallen out of my brain.
Brain fart. One of my guests.
I was going to say one of my friends lives in Cheshire, and basically the Conservative councillor. I mean, it's Cheshire, right? It's Cheshire. It's where all the we call them bad wolves. In Liverpool, like it's short for woolly back. It's a thing that we call people who are from Cheshire. We call them bad wolves. So for us, like James Bond, like Daniel Craig, he's a bad wool James Bond. Anyway, basically in his constituencies, well, his ward, the Conservative councillor won by 80 votes. And this is something that I find really fascinating about local elections. Literally, if you can get your football team, your five-a-side football team to vote, you can sway the election in a local vote.
That happened in I can't remember which area or which ward it was now. That's what I was going to say. There was 2 votes in it. I can't remember. 2 votes? There was 2 votes between Tories and Labour, or Lib Dem or Labour. And there were people turned away at that polling station.
Yeah.
And also another thing that I saw today is that they're going to bring the photo ID in for postal votes. So they're going to introduce that. They're going to bring it in for postal votes. So you're going to have to show some ID to
shit show.
There are still more disenfranchisement techniques to come, right?
Also,
another one is automatic unregistration.
What the fuck? And the Good Law Project are taking them to court, aren't they?
More Tories have had statutory fines for attending parties when we were all locked down than there have been incidents of voter fraud.
More Tory MPs have been accused of sexual assault and rape.
Sex offences, I was about to say that.
Than anyone has ever been, has been, arrested for voter fraud.
In terms of things we can do about it. I mean, to answer your question, Asif, it's not directly about voter ID, but one of the best techniques coming out of the US is what they call vote doubling, and what they mean by that is don't do big campaigns, don't try and ask people to tell everyone they know about anything like that. So just encourage people to bring one person with them. All right, bring your neighbor, help your elderly friend, whatever it might be. Just bring one person, because that's really achievable, right? We can all do that. And in some of these places where it's literally a handful of votes, it can really make all the difference as well.
What if your friend can't afford ID? I mean, or hasn't sorted out. I mean, the thing is, like they've been doing this false equivalence thing about other places in Europe, they have voter ID and there's no problem. Yeah, but they all get issued a citizen card. Wasn't it Cameron decided to not introduce a citizen card for everybody?
Well, the Labour tried to introduce ID back when they were in, but it was met with a lot of anger from people because at that time it wasn't so long after the horrific genocide in Rwanda, and one of the things that was a huge problem with that is that it's not a problem with that. One of the things that drove the genocide was the fact that people had ID cards, and on your ID card it had whether you were Hutu or Tutsi on the ID card. And people at the time, I can understand them looking at something like that and saying, what's going to be on that ID card? What's going to be on that magnetic strip? And I think that some people on the left and a lot of people on the right, like the libertarians on the right, just railed against it, and so it never happened. But if you don't have compulsory ID cards, you really can't demand ID to vote. The two have got to go hand in hand, or you just don't do them at all.
Otherwise
it's a really difficult topic. Sorry, Tan. I was just going to say, I mean, so a lot of people were really worried about tracking as well, and this whole idea of like government being able to know everything about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this is the thing. You know, it's turned out that actually we're tracked, 1,000 times more than that would have ever done. Having worked in government, I mean, I can tell you that government do not know as much about you as you think they do. And what I mean by that is that actually it's a bit chaotic in one sense. There isn't a big central database. There's thousands of databases.
They can just hack your phone though. They can literally just hack into your phone if you know about it. And
have you seen the rumors of the new Apple update to iOS that's coming?
No.
So they're basically doing things to get around VPN that start doing more tracking essentially. So even if you use a VPN, it will use your GPS to say, oh no, they're not actually in Spain. They're not. You're trying to access Netflix somewhere else. Yeah, and they're going
to grass. Does that mean I'm gonna not be able to get some regionals in Pokemon Go anymore?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. And also, of course, you got Face ID and the thumbprint stuff, and the rumored Apple VR. Well, what's that going to be in front of?
Yeah.
I hate VR. I think it's been a bad idea since the Virtual Boy came out in the mid-90s, which was a disaster and made people sick, literally physically sick when they tried to use it. It was so poor. And the fact that the Meta has spent, what is it now, 13 billion, is it, on developing virtual reality stuff? And it's like, it's awful. It looks like the Sims, not like the latest version of The Sims, but like when it first came out like 20 years ago. It looks absolutely awful. Just before everybody else gets in, I just want to say that Darian has just been on to say Cheshire West and Chester just went Labour.
Yeah, so. I just had like a notification come up on my phone, but it's probably a good idea we're interrupted because I was going to tell you about this. Like, I think it was on Radio 4. I don't know why it was on Radio 4, but it was about how MI6 just can literally just hack into your phone and look through your camera and listen to you.
Oh yeah, this is why it's so ridiculous.
That they scare or something they call it. I can't remember what it's called. There's different names for it.
They scaremonger over technologies like TikTok, and they say, "Oh my god, like wouldn't it be bad if China could listen in on you? Like, aren't you scared that China, like somebody might be listening in on your phone?" It's like, motherfucker, like. What are you doing? You're not pissed off that somebody's listening into this or accessing these text messages or checking if I have this kind of router, or like you're literally just pissed off that that's not you.
Yeah.
Like it is the same information. I was following a guy, weirdly on TikTok, a guy called Alex Perlman. He's a sort of Boston, America-based ranter. So he's really funny, but he's also very insightful. And he was saying how ridiculous it is. He was like, look, if TikTok wanted your data, they could literally just buy your data. Like Facebook have your data. They could just go to the marketplace and purchase it. So it's not about like your data security. It's about who has that data and they want it. They would much rather it was like an Instagram or a Facebook, ultimately a Zuckerberg or a Musk.
It's actually like it's another layer worse than that actually, and I mean this could be a whole stream on its own. Yeah. There are of course lots of third-party companies that companies like Facebook and Google rely on to do a lot of that, and so they're also selling the data to each other, right? So it's not just that Facebook have your data; they're actually using the same kind of 7 or 8 companies that all the others use as well, right? So they're all sharing the data through third parties. And so they can do a lot of what's called correlation to work out more about you than is actually out there on its own. And so, yeah, I mean, there's some good articles about there, like the companies that really know about you, like go and Google that kind of stuff. It's not conspiracy shit, right? These are companies we've all heard of. And it's just advertising. It's an advertising model, basically, right?
Well, yeah, but the thing is, like, these people can know everything about you. This is the problem. Like, they can know literally everything about you. And I think one of the biggest modern weapons is information. Like, so that the fact that they can just literally just pull out whatever information about you they can, and they can use it for all kinds of nefarious reasons, because everything you look at, they'll know.
I mean, the irony is that they're still trying to sell us mattresses we bought, 6 months ago. So actually, do they know about us? It's really hard to tell, isn't it? Because I mean,
some people do.
If the advertising doesn't work, and that's on purpose, that's a really good trick.
Yeah. It's like, that's just what they want you to think, Josh.
Exactly.
I just want
otherwise the ads would be relevant.
I just want to go back to the tactical voting stuff for a minute. So obviously this, the local election period has been, I think, what feels like a roaring success at the moment for tactical voting and the hopefully what we think are the early green shoots of what will become proportional representation. It feels to me, and this is obviously this is anecdotal, this is my own suite of wards, my constituency here. So I'm in Aldershot, and our wards, a lot of them did appear to vote tactically. So it flipped to a Lib Dem over here, or then like 3 Labour guys over here. Loads of Conservative seats just gone bish bash bosh. But then there was still like 3 Conservatives there, and they were each one of them were, it was like 600 Lib Dems, 650 Labour, and then like 700 Conservatives. So had the 2 progressive voters work together, obviously you wouldn't then have got a Conservative. So I suppose my question for you, Josh, and indeed everyone else, is like, what can we do next for the general election that we didn't do this time? Like, what lessons are there to learn that we can make sure that this gets scaled the fuck up? So it's not just like on Twitter, which is a hugely powerful tool, but it feels like there's something that we need to do to be able to like knock on doors or leaflet or just get that message out that little bit further, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to hold a few of my cards close to my chest, I think, on what we've got coming up. But yeah, I think the whole thing really, I think, is about how communities can work together, right? And I think that's hugely important. And so going back to this whole idea of like taking a friend, organize with your street, right? One of you said earlier about, you know, a football team could sway an election, right? It's that kind of stuff. So it's kind of like talking about politics, it feels a bit taboo sometimes, you know, but actually everything in your life is affected by it. Right? So, yeah. So like, I think having a conversation with people about the things going on in their lives, and then, you know, bringing that around to, you know, things that they can tangibly do, one of them being voting. And then the reason that that's important is because government doesn't actually represent us properly. You know, you start to, what I think I talk about, you know, activating people and mobilizing them, right? And you have to activate them with something very personal. And another campaign I know talks about like what people's red lines are, right? What turned people on to doing something, you know, so that's the activation piece. And it can be very personal, can be very local. But then the important bit is not just getting angry, you know, we've all done that a lot. It's finding something to do. Right now, voting is what we have, you know. This government especially have proven that they, you know, clearly ignore petitions. They clearly ignore the opposition. You know, striking, well, it's hard to ignore, but they're trying, right? Protests, that hasn't worked for a while. You know, I've been on some of the biggest protests this country has ever seen. You know, and what's changed, right? But voting, just about, and of course, you know, say, oh, if voting worked, they try to stop you do it. What are they doing? They're trying to stop us do it.
They're trying to
right?
stop you doing it.
Yeah. So like, I think it is the one thing we've got. And the hard thing, and this is a challenge that I don't necessarily know the answer to, you know, the hard thing is how to relate what happens in government and parliament to people's everyday lives, right? And the great thing is that actually the Conservatives are, you know, creating examples every day, you know, things that they're doing that are affecting our lives. I mean, God, where to start on that one? But like, pick a thing that is close to someone and say, look, if you want to change that, don't just rely on the other guys necessarily, but look, let's get rid of these ones. This is how you do it. Just put your postcode in somewhere. You know, during the general election, there'll be, you know, the usual websites for that. My big thing really is though to say, look, yeah, we're going to get rid of the current guys. We know that. We know that the country you know, has almost never actually voted in a majority right-wing government anyway. So we know we're going to get rid of them, but we need to tell the next government what we actually expect, right? What we want. And the thing is that is easily backed up in all sorts of polling. You know, the country wants progressive stuff. Do you want to know the biggest example of that? It's really obvious. NHS.
Yeah.
Right. So the country wants progressive things. The other one is another nice three-letter acronym I like, UBI. The country actually does want UBI, weirdly. Yeah. Right. Who would have thought? You know. So these progressive things have a majority. We need to, as the majority, get rid of the current government and let the next government know that they have our permission to do some really bold shit, right? That's what they can do, and it's not scary because there are more of us that want it. You know,
I've got
really easy.
one more question.
You're like the Oracle.
This is for everyone. I'd like to put this out to the floor.
Right.
Let's assume that tactical voting is rolled out at the general election, and it has as much of an impact as we perceive it to have done at this local election stage. And the Tories get ousted, and Labour get in with a modest majority, but then it's, you know, Lib Dems and Greens, and, you know, they all work together, and we're on the road to getting PR, we think, at that stage. On that night, when those election results come in, how many drugs are we going to take?
I mean, I'll be caffeinated up to the eyeballs for sure.
Caffeinated.
If it's anything like 1997, I'll be on the Jack Daniels and on the floor.
And heroin.
Well,
I'm
not a big, I'm not big into drugs, but I do have a private island in Panama. So if anyone wants to come over for a party, I'm totally up for
I mean,
that.
I can take all the drugs. So, like, if I'll take one for the team, that's fine.
You take it for the team. I'll supply the private tropical islands, and you can supply the drugs for yourself.
Sure.
I've not answered the question yet. I'm
Oh,
obviously.
yeah, over to you, Tan. Yeah.
I'm going to opt for my old favourite, crack.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
you don't hear much
Always
about
with the
these
crack.
I'm going to do loads of crack. And
Yeah.
I mean, as long as I get to see, like, you know, a new dawn break, then you know, and it's all over and it's game over, I'm just gonna just have a nice relaxing smoke of crack.
It would be sort of so darkly, like, kind of like inverted if, like, just as they were saying, a new dawn has broken, has it not? And then I turn around to you and you're smoking crack. I'd be like, I mean, it kind of has. Tan's really turned a corner here.
End up running to Windsor.
Yeah, we're all gonna miss that new dawn breaking because we all have been up all night anyway, you know. So lie in.
I mean, we need to organise our election night party. I think we need to have a little word with well, I'm not going to mention any names, but I think we know some people that might know some places in London.
I was gonna say, I mean, one of the other things, going back to the you know, how to get people to come out and do this stuff, like seeing other people doing it is really important. Like you know, election parties. Yeah. Let's do that. Let's get people to have election parties, right?
Yeah.
Like this.
We're talking about crack.
Yeah.
What we got to do is see like people with.
We're live on the internet, Tan.
Crack, and then everyone will be on it.
Yeah. So no, like one of my favorite, like
this party political broadcast was put to you by crack.
Crack.
Yeah. This isn't Futurama, you know. Yeah, no, one of my favorite little kind of things that happens during elections is dogs at polling stations. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. It's great, right? People post photos of them with their dogs, you know, and I just really love that kind of thing. And like, you know, I think seeing each other do stuff just motivates you a little bit. You're not on your own anymore. Other people are there. Other people have a good time celebrating.
I'm just thinking of everything in the realms of crack now.
I'm trying to have a serious comment.
Looking at you, you know, like crack at polling stations. I'm sorry.
It's an exercise in normalization, isn't it? It's like if you see people doing it, if you see that it's not something that's stuffy and, you know, grey-haired men in suits, and you see like your mates doing it, whether they've got a dog at a polling station.
Are you talking about voting or crack?
Or smoking crack.
Oh my
Yeah, which
God.
one?
I'm just talking about voting.
Oh, I thought you were talking about crack.
That's
You
what I
see people
saw.
doing it. You see their dogs doing it.
You see their dogs doing it, grey old men doing a bit of crack, you know.
I've never
Australia.
seen a dog do crack.
Yes.
In Australia, they have sausage sizzles, don't they?
I thought you were going to say in
Obviously
Australia
sausages.
they have dogs that do crack, but that's fine.
No, so they literally, because barbecues are kind of like out in the street, like literally kind of like they're just
It's
to
gone
use.
so random.
Graham, can you upload this whole thing as its own thing, like, but just call it like Australian dogs do crack?
Yeah.
It's there. We are going out live on YouTube. There's nothing we can do about it.
That's your clickbait title.
I can't
trying
stop
so
it now.
hard.
I can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Like, obviously, I just want to put out a disclaimer. I won't be doing crack. I'll be doing
something much
meth.
worse.
I'll probably do some MDMA.
Crystal
probably.
meth.
Yeah.
Walter
Yeah.
White's finest. Listen, I just want to say a big shout out to Reagan Elite for the £2 super chat saying beer and curry party night. Which sounds a bit
Woo!
tame compared to the crack extravaganza that Tan has in
I'm
mind.
sure you could just sprinkle some crack on your I was going to say cocaine. You could sprinkle some crack on your curry.
When we were talking about what we can do, one of the frustrations for me and one of the reasons why we started this channel, Labour Social, was that I don't believe that these parties like Labour and the Lib Dems and the Greens are making the most of social media. So something like this, I think, is absolutely awesome. We have 500 people watching this, and each of those people, if we were officials of the parties, which we're not, but if we were, we could say to them, hey, here you go. Here's a link to a PDF. Print it out at your home printer and go and post it in everyone's letterbox around your area. You know, print out 100 leaflets and post them through people's doors. And you can get your message out that way. And, you know, when you start looking at multiples of... So that tonight, if we did that, that would get out to 5,000 people. If we had 50,000 people watching this, it would get out to so many people around the country, and you'd be reaching people who don't necessarily watch social media, don't necessarily read the newspapers even, and the fact that these political parties are not taking the opportunities that are given to them by these free platforms. We're not paying anything to be on YouTube tonight.
They should be paying us to do it, to be honest with you, like, because I really, like, it depends though on who you're affiliated with, whether or not you'd want to do it for later. I know that you and I are members.
Total members, mate. We're massive swinging members.
I don't know if like anyone else is, but I know that we are. But I've always been really transparent about that. But I've also been very clear about the fact that Labour don't know what they're doing with their social media. Like, the thing is, they, under the previous leader of the opposition, they had quite a lot of kind of like the younger people that were kind of like quite closely linked to him. Like Nadia Whitcomb, Whitcomb. Why can't I say anyone's name tonight? And Zara Sultana, etc. They had quite strong like TikTok presences and stuff like that. Whereas I think, and then you've got older Dick for Brains, Boris Johnson getting a bloody TikTok, and Sunak and posting these like really cringy.
Yeah.
Actually, no, to be fair to the Momentum, they were pretty good at the whole social media thing. They were a lot better than the Labour Party is at the moment.
Well, yeah, because they grew up with it. Like, that's the thing. I mean, I think a lot of the people that are probably in the cabinet or the shadow cabinet still remember dial-up. You know,
yeah.
So they're not necessarily as on it. I mean, I only ended up getting on TikTok because I was going mad during lockdown, and then just started ripping the piss out of MPs and developed a kind of following that way. But yeah, I think that, what you're doing is brilliant. You need to build something like this up. And it doesn't all have to be about Labour anyway. I mean, we're broadly discussing, the voting system, voter ID, the election. It doesn't have to mean that you're kind of like a Labour member to come on it. In fact, I think it's good to have a broad,
most of the guests that I've had on so far on Labour Social haven't necessarily been Labour members or supporters. It's just, these are people we want to talk about politics with. I think my sort of, where I'm coming from on all this is I just want the Tories out more than anything in the universe. I want the Tories out of
Well, that's the
power.
common, that's the one thing we've all got, isn't it? Like,
we all want that.
That's
we all want that, don't we? I want that 1997 feeling again.
Tell me about those days, because I was
amazing.
I think I was just about starting secondary school or something around that time. But I mean, at the moment, I know you've confirmed this, but I just like to hear you say it. Does it feel like 1996 at the moment for you, John?
Yeah,
it does. To me, it does. Yeah. It feels very, and especially after today's results as well. Around about 1996, there was just this smell of death when it came to the Tories. You just knew. I think didn't you, Graham? You just I think you just knew they were going.
They were on the way out. I mean, they were covered in sleaze. That was a big thing at the time. You couldn't get away with sleaze.
Yeah, you can get.
1997. The general election. In the evening, I was in the Labato Club in Liverpool, and the confirmation just came through. I remember my mate Sam running down the stairs because this is before mobile phones. Do you know what I mean? Like, how did you find out anything? But I think he'd been upstairs, and I think on the TVs upstairs they had actually got BBC News on, so you could check on what was happening in the election. I mean, this is at a club. This is a nightclub, and he came running down into the basement, and he's like, "Oh my god, it's a fucking landslide!" And the DJ started playing "Things Can Only Get Better" by D-Ream, but obviously no one really wants to dance to that. So halfway through, he changed it into "I Am the Resurrection" by the Stone Roses, and it was just just a great time to be alive.
It was such a buzz. It was, wasn't it? It was just. I mean, I can't remember what I did. That's probably a good thing in a way.
If you can remember it, John, you weren't really there.
It was the crack, wasn't it?
It was Tan. You're right, but
it happened.
No, I remember sort of. I mean, I didn't sleep for the entire night at all.
Crack?
I mean, literally, I didn't sleep. I had to go to work.
What?
Yeah, well, I know. I didn't think about that. I didn't think ahead. So I went into work, just like in a complete black eyes like this, like zombie fight. But I felt good. It didn't matter. It was all right. We were sort of
just like living through the day. So you don't think there's a chance? Because the thing is with Blair and Brown, obviously they were a really great team. I mean, I am a Brownite through and through. I love that man. I love that man dearly. But the thing is with Blair he was a really good kind of actor in many ways. He was really good with people that he had to convince, because he was a lawyer, wasn't he? So he was good at kind of like winning over people that didn't necessarily kind of agree with his ideas, I think.
Lawyer in charge of Labour, did you say?
Well, he was a lawyer. Oh yeah.
No, I'm just saying.
Of course.
Interesting.
But whereas I don't think Starmer's a bad guy at all in any respect, but I think that he hasn't quite got that kind of front that Blair had, because Blair had that kind of like Cheshire cat grin, the ability to kind of just like try and convince people and come across as kind of like really trustworthy.
Blair was more of a natural communicator, wasn't he? He was sort of very articulate, quite engaging. I don't get that same thing from Starmer.
I think he was a good liar, like I don't have any like particular beef with Blair, but I think he was just really good at saying what he thought people wanted him to hear, and he was really good at coming. And he had Alistair Campbell as like director of communications, who was just like fucking ultra talented. So he had that with him, but I don't think Starmer has that same ability to kind of front it out. I think he's not very good at hiding, I don't think, what he's really thinking. And you can kind of see it on his face. So if he's shitting it a bit, or he's a bit nervous or whatever, you can see it on his face a bit. But I don't think he's a bad guy on any level. Like, I think he's sound.
That's why they should have got Thornbury.
Oh, Aid loves Emily Thornbury, and so do I.
I disagree.
I think, Tan, what you said there about knowing what people want to hear, right? I think that's really important.
But also, but with Blair though, it was kind of like, in retrospect, a lot of it was bullshitting though. That's the thing. Like,
but
running it out.
Yeah, so but it's really obvious.
Someone genuine or a bloody performing seal as your prime minister. That's the thing that annoys me about it, because he's obviously like, but at the same time, like Labour, like any Labour leader at the moment, like I do feel for him, because they're spinning plates, because they're having to try and like counter like one of the maddest Conservative governments we've ever had in our time, plus all of the media influence that comes with that. And I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but they're not exactly, it's not easy to get to a point of putting Labour in a good position again. And they've managed it. Like, we're in a strong position again for the first time.
They've done it very quickly. Sorry, jump in there.
Very quickly.
They've done it incredibly. You've got one thing Starmer's done brilliantly, way better than I ever expected, was how quick he's turned things around.
Yeah.
And to the chagrin of half of my Twitter followers, but I don't care. But honestly, the speed of how he's done it, I think is just not really shouted about enough, because you consider where Labour were, where we all were, December 2019, absolute just fits of despair, wasn't it? It was awful.
It was.
You had Labour and Lib Dem just at each other's throats constantly, obviously, which didn't help. And you've got this not complete turnaround, I'll rephrase that, but such just what they've done is quite incredible. And to be fair as well, I mean, I know this is a Labour thing, but what Ed Davey's done with the Lib Dems too is another. He's been in the background really quietly the way he's done it, and he's really done some good stuff too.
I admire Caroline
And
Lucas.
they're talking to each other as well. Starmer and Davey clearly talking to each other in a very Blair Ashdown way. That can only be a good thing.
Can only get better, yeah. And I think that's what we need. But at the same time, like, I do understand where some people come from when they're a bit alarmed about how kind of maybe centre right they feel it is. But then it's going to feel more. I don't think the policies that they've released are right wing in any sense. But anything is probably going to seem more right wing compared to what we had before, isn't it? Like that's the thing. It's going to seem
the Overton window, isn't it? You know, people have got used to the sort of the previous leader's Overton window, and you know, yeah, of course it's going to look.
But it's going to feel
more to some people. But again, this is going back to, does this feel very 1996? Because that's exactly what was going on. You had
really, yeah.
No, you did. I'll try and find them, but here on YouTube there is some interviews at the time with Blair around 95, 96, where one of the things he did actually come out with was saying, you know, oh yeah, people sort of say I'm a bit of a Tory, but like, you know, that's not really fair. Or, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it's just echoing exactly now. And there's so many tick boxes that I just think, I remember that.
Big time, because obviously like Brown and Blair were trying to modernise Labour, and they were trying to rebrand Labour, weren't they? Because before, like, I think a lot of people before Blair, a lot of people associated Labour with like the loony left, and they were out on pickets, they were out shouting, and but it was because that was needed under the previous, like under Thatcher. You needed that version of Labour, and that's what Labour came from. But Blair and Brown saw that they needed to modernise, they needed to move with the times, they needed to bring something new to the table, and that's where the kind of like New Labour thing came from. They changed it to the rose because it used to be the other symbol, and that's how it happened. But the thing that really worries me is that we're going to end up in some kind of like 1992 situation. That's the thing that. Yeah,
I don't think we will. I mean,
are you sure there isn't an appetite for Starmer in the same way there was for Blair and Brown? But mind you, it was that 97, that incredible election campaign of 97 that swung it.
Yeah, but you've got to bear in mind as well, in 1992, I remember it was my first election I ever voted in, actually, just by about a month. And 92, it was a very different situation because you had. It was almost on its head. You had the Labour leader, which had been there, and he'd been there for like nearly 10 years, Kinnock. No, 9 years it was. He took over from Michael Foot. And he was almost like the establishment because he'd just been there so long. And he'd already lost an election in 87. And excuse me. And Major was relatively new. You know, yes, all right, Sunak's only just come in, but it just doesn't feel like 92. Because also back in 92, all right, as a teenager, you just never saw Neil Kinnock being Prime Minister. You just didn't see it, you know.
It's
and all the spitting image and everything,
but
all the same. It's like, you ain't going to be Prime Minister, you know.
But it's not going to be like necessarily a direct replica, I guess. But what we're thinking of is in terms of the mood, I guess, of the nation. I mean, I guess the mood of the nation isn't 92, is it? The mood of the nation is probably more 96, like sick to the back teeth of them. And when you've got people like moving over in like to like swinging from Tory to Labour, I mean, that is mad. I didn't think in the local elections we would see what we've seen. I kind of didn't go into it with mad expectations this time. So I have been really pleasantly surprised by what's happened. Massively surprised because I didn't know what to expect. It could have gone any way, but I think people finally reached their absolute limit of having the piss taken out of them. I think people feel like they're having the piss taken out of them, and when you look at things like, I think it was James O'Brien that's coined the term Brexit. The polling for the monarchy's not been this low in a long time. Like, you've got people actually like angry about how they're struggling, and all this money is being put onto a coronation. It feels like a slap in the face to people. So,
do you think Sunak could go? Does anyone think they might try and switch before the election?
what's
No, that'd be ridiculous.
I'd love it if they did, because it
I'd
would
love
be
it if they
political
did.
did.
suicide.
Right.
See that.
like to
They'd
see
be insane. But then again, hey, look, what else have they got to lose?
I mean,
now?
nothing would surprise me in politics anymore after seeing what was it like 3 prime ministers in however many months. I love the way now though that we measure things in a quarting. Have you noticed that? I've seen a lot of now. Like a month is a quarting.
Who could possibly replace him though? Because they were getting more and more kind of UKIP-y, right? The ERG were basically taking over. Turns out that didn't work. And now they've got no one else left.
They've been talking about bringing back fucking.
Isn't that all they've got?
That's all that. Well, it's all they have.
Yeah, Johnson.
They don't have it anymore.
Further right, yeah.
Yeah.
But when are we going to find out about Johnson's? Because Johnson's we've still got the Privileges Committee report to come back, haven't we? Like that hasn't come back yet. So, that hasn't been dealt with.
It maybe he's the next. He'll make the comeback.
Well, but we don't even know how long he's been suspended for.
If he gets suspended for more than 10 days, then that's a potential by-election.
It could trigger.
And that's a tight seat.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, and that's why I think he's been looking at moving back to his old haunt. I think it's just we just need that bastard like far from the seat of power. He's only there for his own gain, and it's like he puts a bloody spell on people. It's weird.
Well, I shared that thing today. Did I share the thing about the puppy and the 2 beers?
Yeah.
About there's certain people in life that you will want to go for 2 beers with, and there's people that you'll give your puppy to look after for the weekend. And some people fall into both of those categories. Some people fall into one. Anyone who doesn't fall into either of those categories, you don't want them in your life. And I thought that was a really good point.
I wouldn't trust him to hold my pint. Is such a great thing.
But like Rishi Sunak, I wouldn't trust him with my puppy, and I wouldn't want to go for a drink with him.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'd trust him with my puppy, but I don't think he would want to be around the puppy because it would be working class.
It would be too woke.
Yeah, the puppy, stop
being so cute and adorable.
He'd just keep looking at the puppy going, do you work in finance? Do you work in business?
Judging by the results today, do you reckon voting is woke? Like voting at all?
Voting is woke.
Voting? Oh, you voted, did you? That's woke.
I'm really disappointed in Sunak, because I don't know I wouldn't expect much from the guy that was partly responsible with his mates for the banking crisis, but he strikes me as someone that knows deep down that this is wrong, but he's going along with it because he's got to keep Suella Braverman on side, because she's like the connection. Right.
Do you think that she might be for the boot? Because this is what they were talking about this morning. They were saying that they had prepped her in such a way to make herself look like a complete inhuman arse that it would get to a point where now that the Tories haven't done so well, they'll use her as a sacrificial lamb.
Well, they've got like he kept Raab in post for 5 weeks, even though he was he knew about the bullying charges. He's gone along with what Suella Braverman has done for months and months and months. If he gets rid of her, he loses his link to the proper hard wing of his party. So he's between a rock and a hard place. So what he's doing is a really immoral thing. He's going along with something, I think, that he knows is deeply wrong for personal gain. But I don't understand why the hell Sunak's even bothering to put himself through this. The guy is rich. Like, he could just have an easy life, Like, just
Why does he want an 80 grand a year job? Yeah.
Exactly, but why do any of them want it? For the
something on the CV, isn't it? It's to become prime minister. I mean,
what's the CV? I mean, obviously they're going to be saving.
They don't care if it's a month. They get to the top.
Oh yeah, they get 100 grand a year for the rest of their lives, or they've got access to funding or staff or something for the rest of their lives. I mean, it's terrifying that someone like Truss, who I don't even think she can think, she's just a blank vessel, has got access to that fund apparently, or that it was set up in the.
This is going to sound awful, Tam, but I find a part of this psychology absolutely fascinating. You know, the way people watch documentaries about serial killers. I think in the future we'll watch documentaries about Tories,
about Liz Truss,
about how their brains worked.
She's blank.
Liz Truss will make a film. I think that'll make an amazing film.
The woman who could not think. Yeah, it's just.
how she got to be prime minister is an astonishing story. I mean, you've got to say, if that was a sort of a dare back in 1990 to say, right, I know you're a Lib Dem, but can you become a Tory and become a Tory prime minister?
I mean,
for
10 minutes, tank the economy, cost us loads of money. But I always use the phrase,
kill the Queen.
It's like Father Ted, you know, you let Father Dougal do a funeral. That's what it's like, letting Liz Truss in charge of the country. It's just the wildest thing ever. Someone described her as naked ambition in a skin suit, which I really agree with that as a phrase, because she's the only woman that I've ever met that has like confidence when she shouldn't. Like most women I know just hate themselves, right? They're like, even if they're brilliant.
Yeah, riddled by imposter syndrome.
I'm terrible. You'll tell them I've got a nice dress and they're like, oh, it cost me £5, it's horrible. She hasn't got any of that, but she's also got no talent. So it's like she's like hyper confident, but nothing below the surface. She's like, you know, just empty. I just don't understand Liz Truss. I don't understand how she has. How is she not ashamed of what she's done?
How did she work? Can I just give a shout out to the Freckle Puny for £2 super chat? Thank you very much, Freckle Puny, saying Braveman would poison your pint and eat the puppy.
Who would?
Suella Braverman.
Oh, Suella Braverman, yeah, but Sunak would just be, I think he'd act confused at the prospect of a puppy. It'd just be like, he'd just keep asking it what he does for a living.
Try and find someone else to hand it to. Like, what do you do with this?
What is it?
Do you work in finance?
Do you work in finance? Do you work in business? Whereas
his wife will have a company that looks after puppies.
Yes, exactly. Mind you, he'd probably
outsource it to his wife's company.
He'd offer it non-dom status.
I mean, pretty much, you know, what makes businesses are around at the time, depending on who's in the cabinet and that kind of stuff, kind of dictates policy in a way, doesn't it? So, like, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if you know, they suddenly start having friends that are, you know, pretending to start wind turbine companies just so they can start pretending themselves that they are the greenest party. You know, so look, we're going to spend billions of pounds on wind turbines to our mates.
Yeah,
look, we're the greenest party. We're the greenest party.
That is exactly how it goes, isn't it? Because this is the thing. You look at things like people like Scott Benton, you know, just absolutely crooked, and the way that I made a video about this a little while ago about how they lobby based on their vested interests, not our interests, right? So the constituents don't matter to them. They want the job as an MP. I think Johnson in particular wanted it so he could get loads of free stuff. And so he could be above the law and he could do whatever he wants because he knows how difficult it is to prosecute an MP, let alone a prime minister. So he knew, I mean, of all the people to give lawlessness to, bloody Boris Johnson, of all people. I mean, terrifying. And that's why he's just clinging on because he's got no shame. Most of them are pretty shameless. But yeah, they work in the interests of their second, third, fourth jobs, not us. And that's the reason why they want it, because with that job comes status, comes power, comes the ability to be sold off to the highest bidder. Look at Jacob Rees-Mogg and his links to the fossil fuel industry through Crispin O'Dea, right? Making money. What does he go for? Fracking. Of course he does, because that's why he's so anti-green policy, and that's why that's what
he blamed the economy on. When he was being lambasted by Marina Perkins last week, he said, "Why is the economy on its arse?" And he went, "Because you won't allow us to frack."
And when he said that, I was like, "You fucker!" Because I was like, "Marina, mention the Byline Times article because Byline Times did an entire expose making all the links." You know, because Crispin O'Dea, if you guys, anyone that's watching, like Byline Times, I would highly recommend them. Really great investigative journalists. Like I trust them. But they put all the links together, and that's how I found out about Crispin O'Dea and his links to Murdoch and Murdoch's links to Jacob Rees-Mogg's dad, and how Jacob Rees-Mogg's dad wrote the book on what was it, the capitalism, the disaster capitalism book.
William Rees-Mogg, disaster capitalism.
Blood on the streets, and talking about the blood on the streets, right? And then you look at and there's a bit in that. There's an excerpt in that, which I can't remember off the top of my head, but it perfectly describes Brexit and what happened with Brexit and the human behaviour behind it and how you can just make dickloads of money. And what happened? Their mate, Crispin O'Dea, the day that we left the European Union, made millions, multi-millions, our pound tanking.
There's that photo of Farage in front of the graph, isn't there?
Yeah. The pound tanking.
Yeah.
And there's a really amazing book by Naomi Klein, called The Shock Doctrine, and it came out before Brexit, but honestly, you read that and you go, yeah, this fits into everything that Brexit. It predicted Brexit down to a T, because it is disaster capitalism. It is making sure that us lot get poorer and the rich get richer, and this is the way to
inherit the debt. We inherit the debt, which we didn't cause.
And you have all these companies that like to capitalize the profits and socialize the losses. And
it sounds like time and time again. But it's all there on the record. Like, it's literally all there.
You can't get away from it. You can't get away from it. So before we go on, can I just say a big shout out to Sir Larry the Cat for the £5 super chat. Sir Larry the Cat. Truss has the hands of death. She killed Queenie, then tried to pet me. And then I think that's true as well. I've also got Maggie Pie, who's put 22nd, which might be Swedish krona. I don't know. Imagine going for a pint with Jacob Rees-Mogg. I'd rather not. And Aaron Tom has dropped in a £2 super chat. So thanks to everyone for the super chats. Keep them coming if you want it. Anyway, sorry, Tam, you were about to say.
I can't remember what I was saying. I think we're talking about Crispin O'Day. Oh yeah, that's another thing, right? The hedge funders, and the disaster capitalism, and the shorting the pound, right? This happened around the time of the Truss Kwarteng budget. And there were reports in the time, allegedly, that Kwarteng and Liz Truss met with hedge funders that short the pound just before the economy tanked. And also that when Kwarteng was saying those things that were further spooking the market, he attended reported a champagne lunch with them around the time that this was all going on, right? So you've got the Chancellor of the Exchequer and the then Prime Minister meeting with hedge funders that short the pound, who went on to make millions from our economic decline and the debt that we're going to end up, paying off, that they're making us pay off, like on top of all the COVID fraud that their mates, magically bought yachts with after, all that money went missing. This is like, and they call themselves patriots, right? They've ruined our country. They've decimated our economy, and they're claiming that they're patriots. Fucking no, no. So yeah, it's darker than when I was finding all this out, I was just open mouthed with shock, because I don't have any faith in them. But not even I thought that they would do that, and not even I thought they'd do Partygate. I was taken aback by that, and I had no faith in them at that point.
They forgot that it was a long-term grift, and they've just gone for the short-term grifts, right?
Yeah, and they've made it really obvious.
Yeah,
and they've done it at a time when the papers were finally starting to scrutinise them. And because after Partygate, even people that were traditionally Tory were even having to kind of mention it because it was so bad. And so many Tory MPs, prime ministers past and present, should be facing jail time for, I think at least some of them for corporate manslaughter. I mean, Johnson, his rap sheet, Trump's got, faced consequences for what he's done. Not one consequence for Johnson, not one. The guy should be in prison. He should be rotting in a jail cell, not buying fucking castles with moats. Unbelievable.
I would go back further as well. Austerity, right?
Oh, of course, killed hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, people starved to death.
Yeah.
People are now.
Froze to death. And now still are. Because the government should be taxing. The government are giving bailouts to multi-billionaire energy companies and then passing the cost on to us.
Don't forget the Fit for Work as well, Ian Duncan Smith and all that. That's another whole avenue.
IDS, my God, we almost got him in the last election. Almost.
We were that close, weren't we? Yeah.
It'll be out this election. It's going to be very satisfying. We're gonna have to close up soon, because we've been going on for 2 hours. But the next election, the general election, it's going to be immense. The satisfaction I am going to take from seeing Jacob Rees-Mogg lose his seat, from seeing Ian Duncan Donuts lose his seat, to seeing Boris Johnson lose his seat. Do you think Boris Johnson's going to stand, or do you think he's just got he'll sack it off and say he's not going to stand again?
He'll leave, won't he? He won't stand.
Yeah, I don't think he will, but
I think that they are looking forward to some time in opposition, right? Where they can basically stand on the other side with no responsibility or repercussions and just basically lie for 5 years, right?
Yeah.
However, the possibility is that they won't even be the opposition, right? You know, the possibility is that they'll be the third party somewhere, you know, buried on the side of the house somewhere, you know, deep in the aisles of Parliament, not really having much of a say at all, you know, because if you know, the SNP or the Lib Dems manage to beat them, one of them will be leader of the opposition, right? Can you imagine that? I mean, just like how almost refreshing that will be, you know, to have people that are relatively similar.
Relatively sane in the opposition. That would be amazing.
You know, the crazies over in the corner.
A big shout out to Wayne for the £2 super chat. Although he did call me a twat, but that's okay. I know him well. And Tamian saying Rees-Mogg equals over promoted hat stand in a morgue.
Yeah,
can't argue with that. Thanks for the super chat there, Darian.
I wouldn't trust him to put my hat on though, so
I wouldn't trust him to be able to open the door because I don't think he's human. I think he's just a ghost wanker, isn't he?
He's a ghost wanker. He just goes around wanking off ghosts.
It's just a pointless ghost, yeah.
Someone said on TV the other day, I heard, you know, one of the biggest critics of the nanny state is one of the only people in the country who's got one.
Oh yeah, but Rees-Mogg, he literally still has his nanny, doesn't he? He went canvassing with her some years ago. He went out giving out leaflets. Yeah, Rees-Mogg. He went out giving out leaflets around.
I thought you said you did. I was like, what the fuck? Can I trust you? Can I trust you?
I don't think all we knew about nannies in Liverpool growing up was that Count Duckula had a nanny who used to crash through the wall a lot and call him Ducky Boos.
I'm from Essex, so what we did is we ate them with a curry.
Yeah, but not Rees-Mogg there.
For none. But I just can't believe that these caricatures fucking exist, and that someone put them in a position of how mad do you have to be to vote for Jacob Rees-Mogg, man of the people?
I mean, I think his seat's careful though, because I'm worried about his seat actually, because I think there's going to be a progressive tragedy in Rees-Mogg's seat, because the Lib Dems have done very well around that area today.
Yeah.
And Labour are still doing fairly well too. So I'm quite worried about his seat, to be honest. But even with the new boundaries,
well, if we don't get all of them, we're going to get a lot of them.
Got to catch them all. But the thing with Rees-Mogg, a new poll I think was released. I'm sure I saw it on my Twitter stream, but today it's just been like information overload. I'm sure I saw that Labour have edged it now and that they're like ahead of Jacob Rees-Mogg. But again, it's really close between Lib Dem and Labour, isn't it?
Yeah, on electoral calculus they are, but as we all know, they only use MRP polling, and you get nuances that they don't. People just look at electoral calculus and think, right, that means, great example. I always use Chelmsford. I'm going to say it again in that way. Electoral calculus think Labour are way ahead there. They're not, as I could tell you today, being in the centre of everything. Labour are nowhere.
I've been in the centre of everything.
Centre of everything in Chelmsford. But they're not, because of the local nuances. And even with the most recent two elections, the Lib Dems have been second there. But for some reason, electoral calculus, because they've taken the national swing and applied it to all the seats, they've put Chelmsford as a Labour target. They're never going to touch it. Labour. So we've got to be careful with that as well, because that also could kneecap us.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Like you've got to be, but it's going to be, if anything, after this, right? The working out the tactical vote for the general is going to be a fucking breeze, isn't it? Like compared to, I imagine working out, is it not? Am I talking bullet?
Well, compared with like how many councillors was it? 7,000 or something, Josh?
Just over 8,000 seats.
8,000 seats, and you had to work out who you thought would win.
Was it 8,000 wards?
8,000
wards.
8,000 wards, I think, mate. Yeah. But don't forget as well, we're going to have new boundaries. So we can't just look at previous election. Yes, that's going to help, but there's going to be a lot more nuances and a lot more extra things that we've got to look into.
Because it's how they win.
Hey, what the hell, Asif?
What are you going to do?
Do a local election.
So ultimately, with tactical voting, like you really only need to get it right in about 250 places. I mean, when I say get it right, I mean you need to focus on about that many, really. Like if you if you're trying to do it for all 650, you just don't need to. There are a lot of places where the Tories can never win anyway. So all we need to do really is get it in front of people in the target seats, which is a much smaller number, and hopefully they'll be easier to work out. And if there are a few that are complicated, my personal feeling is it's probably better to not offer advice than to offer something confusing.
Yeah, have you worked out, like, I suppose you haven't had time, so you said you had stuff on today, but in terms of our target Tory seats, I suppose you haven't had a chance to look through and see
how the councils map to target MPs. Yeah, we haven't done that yet.
See, because we had like a set, didn't we, of was it 30? I can't remember how many there were now, but there was like the key ones that we want to
we need to go through and actually do all that. Once all the results are in, we'll map that up. Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
I think we've got most of the I think we're at the point now where if there's been more that have come in, where we've got two more to call. The Tories are now at 1,060. So yeah, interesting.
I might be taking the weekend off because it's been a bit of a hard one. but next week's going to be like all that number crunching.
That's good though, because it will drag it on a little bit more after the coronation, because once we've got that, twatty crown nonsense out the way, then back on Tuesday or whatever, then you'll have you'll have it back in the news and it'll be back and prominent. I just hope they're losses and not bloody holds or anything like that. I don't even know which two they are, actually.
I saw James Cleverly today basically pretending the elections weren't happening. Did you see him on Twitter?
Yeah.
It was really funny.
What?
I've been out asking people what they think about the coronation today.
Did you see his terrible video that he uploaded?
That was hilarious. He was like, I'm here with this guy. What's your name?
Where am I?
At this place. What is it?
Why would you upload that?
That was so funny. Oh, mate, I replied,
I was like, you're not even trying to hide it anymore, are you? Like, you're just literally, you're not even trying to hide how
so
shit
good. It was so good.
Braintree stayed Tory today, sadly.
Because I don't think people voted tactically, because I think a lot of people, sadly, went against voting advice because of tribal allegiances on the Labour side. I think there was a lot of that about. Unfortunately, I think there was a lot of people who were like, who even if Labour with a tactical vote, they're just not going to do it. And I don't think you get that with Lib Dems and such, because they're kind of very extreme centrists, aren't they? Really, Lib Dems, when you think about it.
I love that expression, extreme centralist.
Well, no, Lib Dems are like,
what do we want? Incremental change. When do we want it? In due course.
When we ask with it, because we're privileged, we don't really matter either way when we get it. So I can afford Booper.
Lib Dems I know, and people that also would call themselves centrists, have quite a broad idea or understanding of what they think that means.
I've no beef with centrists, to be fair, but I'm not one. I get told I'm one by men who like to tell me that I'm a centrist, but I'm really not. I mean, if given the choice, right, I'd probably be an anarchist of some description. But I know that's not going to, but I know we need to use the systems to get them out. But there's no way in fuck that, I think I'm moderate in many ways, but there's no way I'm a hardcore centrist. No way. Yeah. I think I can see some benefits in some aspects of it, but generally, I did one of those bloody tests where it tells you where you sit, and I'm like,
yeah. But that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, I really, really try hard not to use the labels at all. It's just not useful, because immediately, you're having a conversation with someone and you're just talking about different things, even if it's only substitute.
You get people's backs up when you start giving them labels and trying to put them in a box. And a lot of people have quite a plurality of views about stuff, and you'd be surprised to meet people who are very, very left-wing who support the death penalty, and then people who are very right-wing who support universal basic income, and you're like, whoa. And it's quite difficult.
Yeah, it shows that it actually doesn't really mean anything at all, and the real conversation to be had is about policies, right?
And fluidity. And the problem is also when you do talk in those terms as well, there's loads of negative connotations associated with them. Like you get you know, if someone says, oh, I'm hard left, or I'm like, you know, quite hard right, or I'm centrist or whatever, you've got all of the kind of associated slurs and like assumptions that come with that. So I think you're right. I think it is best to, but I never define myself as any of those things. Like,
Can I just give a quick shout out to Wayne again for a £2 super chat? Thank you very much. He wanted to say, I speak for all of Essex, full of right wing twats. That was a super chat. I'm just repeating what he wrote.
Say? He said what?
He said, I speak for all of Essex, full of right wing twats.
Well, me and John are from Essex, and we're not.
Well, you would get on with Wayne. You would get on with Wayne. We will meet up at some point. I'm pretty sure. And also, we've got one angry pagan who's saying all Starmer needs now is a 21st century version of an Ira Bevan, like Attlee had. So who could be our 21st century Honora Bevan?
Oh.
Well, Rayner's quite over to that side as it is anyway. So you know,
Rayner's what?
Well, obviously, I mean, no, I'm just thinking of the balance because Bevan was very, compared to Attlee, Bevan was very, very on the other side, wasn't he? And they obviously made it work in 1945. I'm going back a bit now. I'm not that old.
Not that old.
Back when I was a lad in the war.
Yeah.
Before internet.
On my foot and everything, and
before internet, when we had to walk up. Yeah.
Lived in a box in middle of swamp.
God, I don't bloody know, because the thing is, like, I also, like, I was very aware that we were doing it earlier. Like, we're kind of harking back, I guess, to the last great victories, aren't we, in terms of the political parties and stuff? But the world has changed on so many levels since then. All we can go on is, I think, mood and how fucked off people are in terms of making the judgment call about whether or not change is possible in terms of, leadership.
The big change that's happened in just the last few years is that so many people from the millennial and Generation Z generations are not becoming more right wing as they get older, because they don't have a house, they don't have a mortgage, they don't have security, they're not having children because they can't afford to have children, they're not having healthcare that they would normally have, they can't see a dentist. They're looking at their lot and going, there's literally nothing here I want to conserve, so why would I vote for the Conservatives?
Well, yeah,
and that is why the Republicans in America and the Conservatives in the UK are shitting bricks, because no one under the age of 40 wants to vote for them. There was a poll that came out this week which showed that it was between 18 and 25-year-olds that were polled, and 86% of them, 86% said they wouldn't vote for Conservatives.
So right a couple of years back when we started putting together some of this campaign, I went through and did, looked at some census data to kind of see how many young people, teenagers basically, between 13 and 17 were there in 2019. And so how many of them would then be able to vote at the next election, right? 2.4 million.
Wow.
Yeah, 2.4. That's always stuck in my head.
Cat.
You told me that.
Yeah. Is it okay? I was going to ask chat if they were comfortable sharing how old they were, because I'd be really interested to know the ages of the audience, but obviously no obligation to do that. But who are we talking to in terms of like demographic,
Yeah, that would be, I suppose that'd be quite interesting, because what Graham was saying is absolutely spot on. And I think that's been a similar situation in Australia, because obviously they've been hit quite hard by certain things. And the whole adage of you get more right wing as you get older was associated with social mobility and wealth increase and things like that.
And that's not there anymore.
We don't have social mobility. We don't have wealth increase. We don't have the whole yuppie, self-sufficient, get rich quick.
Owning your home.
We've got some ages coming in. First of all, I want to say a big shout out to Lee Corn for dropping a £2 super chat in, calling himself a Tory socialist F-boy. We've got Wayne saying, I'm in Basildon, right to buy capital of Essex. And ages coming in of people watching. We've got 29, 24, 26, 21 plus, says Lee Corn. We've got 20, we've got 18 from George. We've got 61 We've got 42, 29, 41, 59, 49, 60. Oh my God, everyone's just throwing in their age here. This is amazing. 41, 60, 47, 50, 35, 59, 57, 47, 52.
18.
Yeah, we've got one 18-year-old, but most people seem to be
21,
between the
28.
age of 30 and 60. By the
Real
looks of
mix,
things.
actually. It's really interesting.
Ryan there's
Yeah.
22. Good old Ryan. Thanks, Ryan, for tuning in.
Bloody hell. Yeah, so there's a few that are in their 20s, some that are in late teens. But largely kind of people that are breaking the old stereotype, innit?
Well, if you were 17 in 2019, show up, right? I mean, that's the message, I think, really.
And take a mate with you.
Yeah.
What, are you telling them to shut up? What?
Sure. Yeah.
So what?
If you're 17, shut up. You shouldn't be allowed to
I mean,
vote
it's an interesting point. I know you're making a joke, but like, you know, you don't need to tell anyone you're doing it. You don't have to like go and, you know, get judged for voting or anything. You can do it.
I don't think people are though, because I saw a few people. I think it was Roadside Mum on Twitter. She wasn't going to bother voting. She just couldn't be arsed with it. Her son, full of scorn, in his I think late teens, early 20s, forced her to go. And then she posted a picture of I think it was one of her friend's sons forcing his nan to the bloody polling station. He was angry that she hadn't gone. I think there is appetite. I don't think it's necessarily an uncool thing to do. I just think that there's just a lot of distraction and there's a lot of fear amongst young people about probably they've got the additional fear of AI taking their jobs. It's literally like Years and Years by Russell T Davies is just coming true, but in ultra quick speed. At least in Years and Years, there was kind of 4 or 5 years between each episode where this shit happened. It's like things that are happening across the years span in that show are happening now all in one go, like the rise of AI, which
a whole
is
show about,
frankly. And there's just too much scary that's happening.
We should do a series of shows on current politics through the lens of speculative fiction or something. I think it'd be really fun.
Well, to be honest with you, the fiction is coming true. I said, it's like we're living in a kind of novel that's a collaboration between J.G. Ballard, George Orwell, Charlie Brooker,
Alan Moore,
Russell T Davies. It's like.
But the Tory party are edging ever so close to the Norse Fire Party from V for Vendetta. It is quite crazy that
ETN News all the way, man. That's what GB News.
Yeah, it is what GB News is. It's literally putting politicians from a very, very right-wing party on the television and saying, oh, these are the impartial news observers, and they're going to talk to us about, the news. But it's not the news, even though they're literally on a channel called GB News.
But it's not beamed into your lounge like a 1984 style or anything. It's not like the telly boxes or anything. It's not. Thank fuck, because it is I just
we've got Netflix, so we could turn over. But you don't have to watch it. But really a lot of people do.
It's so weird. It feels so obviously low budget, and that gives it even more of a dystopian vibe.
Yeah,
it is.
Apparently, it's very low, even low budget behind the scenes as well, isn't it? From what I hear.
From what I've heard, they've
lost so much money on GB News, though. I mean, they've lost tens of millions of pounds in the last couple of years. They don't care. It's a lost leader. It's like selling beans for £5 pence in the supermarket.
No one watches it. I think the most they've probably ever had anyone tune in was when Marina Perkis handed Jacob Rees-Moggy's arse. I think that was literally when even then I screen recorded it and didn't link back to him.
All the remixes of that on TikTok are amazing.
Remixes?
With the music and the intense zooms and oh man, it's.
I haven't seen any
you gotta
remixes.
check it out, Tan. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's
it's like the look on Marina's face, like when it cuts to her right at the beginning, just the look
disgust,
just perfect.
The rage. She fucking hates him. And we all do, because the guy's a fraud. He's an absolute fraud.
So Larry the Cat is calling GB News the Cockwombles channel.
I call it dimly lit telly for thick fucks. Don't hold back. But it is. Sorry, Graham, I've broken you.
I've sent this link to one of the presenters actually, to see if they'll watch.
Oh, nice.
I actually have.
It's not Charlotte, is it? We've had Charlotte in the
On my
chat
Facebook,
who's
I've got
outed
it.
herself as a Tory.
Feel free to pass that feedback on, because I think that's what they should rename it.
Oh,
Well,
she
we
knows
have someone in
everybody.
the chat saying we're all on a par with GB News. Okay, the difference is we're doing this for no money whatsoever,
That's the
whereas
difference.
GB News has £68 million to play with.
Yeah, I mean, we're not
This is
getting paid
free.
for this. We're doing this just for shits and giggles. We're just
Well,
we're
shits and giggles and saving the world, but
We're
whatever.
on a par with them.
saving the world.
I think we're doing
Okay.
quite well.
drinking like whiskey and cola and saving the world, but also for our own sanity. I think it's good to get this shit off our chest.
Yeah.
Very good to get this off our chest. Otherwise, we go mad.
I mean, just like to get a bit soppy for a moment, right? I think having each other around really helps it happen. Certainly for me, and certainly through lockdown, when like you're saying, Tan, on our own at home, feeling like we need to do something, and finding other people that want to do it too, really is motivating. So
Even though when I was first, I think it was Marina that reached out to me to come to the group. And I had an entire Zoom with you, the first Zoom I ever had with you. And I wrongly thought that you were trying to organise a protest.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And throughout the entire Zoom, I was like, when's he going to start talking about the protest? And then I realised that was Dominic Minghella, who was like organising the Stop the Rot protest.
yeah.
I was completely confused.
Yeah.
And then we created this little group, and then we went forth and kind of gradually built contacts. And yeah, it was really cool how we got it off the ground. Because who was in the group initially? I can't remember even who was in the WhatsApp.
I certainly wasn't. I was brought into the group by you, Tan.
Late, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've been
but-
mates with John on Facebook since like 2009.
John, yeah.
Yeah. But
And
I didn't
I
actually
watched
meet
a
John
long
in real
time.
life till
Is it that long? Oh, it is that long, isn't it?
last December.
I watched your travels, Graham, years and years ago, whenever
Oh,
it was
my
on.
word.
So that's, yeah.
I did my friend Jules.
Mm.
She's like,
Yeah. Jules like, can I come on the show? And I'm like, yeah, sure. Because I'm a big
Jules
fan
is
of
like
yours.
a
And I'm like,
fan.
how are you a fan of mine? But yeah, he
Jules
watches
loves you,
travels.
man. Jules loves travel, like and travel documentaries. He's like a proper documentary head. But
Definitely gonna have to do that.
but yeah, but the beauty of this is what I like to think. If I was romanticizing what's happened today in my head, it would be that those fuckers did not see this kind of coming, and we just came up out of nowhere, and we just like helped fuck them up. That's the way that I hope it happened.
Oh, they're all going to be watching this video tomorrow. Mhm. Yeah. So let's keep our mouths shut about what's coming up, eh?
Well, not even I know. So I do know, but I'll never tell.
It goes to show, though, what a group of people, like-minded people coming together. You need a small group. It was only about 6 people who started the Renaissance in Italy.
Well, Josh, I think you were already doing stuff, but then obviously,
Yeah,
know, there's a few of us that are associated. I mean, everyone knows that we all, like a bunch of us, know each other.
Yeah.
But I think the thing that would probably possibly shocked the Tories was how many kind of like high profile people we have access to, because that's what kind of I think gives or we know or we have associated with on Twitter or whatever, because I think that's where you really can get something going, because trusted people endorsing you can make something mainstream, and that's what we kind of need until we get the change in the laws and such is reform of our voting system, which is desperately needed to make it more democratic. We need to make the protest style of voting just mainstream.
But
So
also,
people-
it's interesting that not all of us are Labour. Not all of us have, come from the same political background at all.
Absolutely not,
Or
no.
social background. But we've come together to get these Tories out, because they are. I mean, like, I know lifelong Tory voters who are looking at this particular party that is in charge now and going, they're not Tories, because they don't stand for anything except for themselves. Whereas in the olden days, if you remember that far back, actually some Tories did want a better nation. They wanted Britain to have prestige around the world. And there's something the Tories have done very successfully in the last 7 years, is they have destroyed our prestige around the world. We're seen as a bit of a joke now. Not just
we are.
around
Yeah,
Europe, but around the Commonwealth.
Yeah, yeah.
And around this is why Barbados is backheeled having the Queen as the King now as head of state. That's why Belize is going the same way, and Jamaica. I mean, Antigua is also talking about not being a Commonwealth realm anymore, and it's because we had these opportunities to reach out and embrace, the nations around the Commonwealth. There's 56 countries in the Commonwealth now, and it's a remarkable partnership around the world. And one of the things the Brexiteers said is, oh yeah, we'll be able to do more stuff with the Commonwealth. And not only have we turned our backs on Europe, our closest friends, our allies, many of them are NATO allies who have said they will defend our country in the event of us ever getting invaded. Not only them, but people across the world in the Commonwealth who feel they've been abandoned.
Yeah, the Commonwealth I disagree with fundamentally on many levels anyway, because it just feels very white savoury. I don't like the.
Well, I don't know. From what I've experienced of the Commonwealth, there's a lot more interaction between the nations of the Commonwealth than there are between the nations of the Commonwealth and the UK.
I meant more the royal attitude towards them. I just think that
the British attitude towards the Commonwealth, I think I agree, is a bit shit.
Yeah, I think that's what I dislike about it, because I get the impression that the royals saw that those people as people that they needed to civilize, and that's the thing that really disgusts me about it, is that it's been documented that they've seen it in that way, just like the royal family see themselves as a moral example to us. Are you fucking joking me? Paying off nonsense.
But that's where I feel like the royal family had an amazing opportunity when Meghan Markle came along to say, look, people in the royal family can be like people in the Caribbean. Don't forget, most people in the Caribbean and India and Africa in the Commonwealth, they're not white. They're not white. So that opportunity was absolutely squandered. And not only did they not make the most of that opportunity, they actively sought to demonize and destroy Meghan Markle.
Well,
and you look at that and you go, you idiots.
Did a history of humanitarian work and charity work, as did Harry.
Yeah.
In Lesotho, wasn't it, that he went out there and he that's where he kind of came of age, was building and generating a family amongst the people out there. That's what he did. That's how he came to terms with his grief. But I think the thing that's really shameful about the royal family is the lack of reparations they've made for links to the slave trade.
Yeah, we need to start talking about this a lot more. Schools around the UK that have got links. So my school that I went to in Liverpool, Bluecoat, has very big links with the slave trades. We knew this when we were in school in the 1990s, that it was founded by slavers. And now you're seeing there was a presenter, Laura Trevelyan, on the BBC, who has actually gone the extra mile of actually offering reparations to down the line now, and that is something that I think is going to happen more and more in the Caribbean and West Africa, as we identify these institutions in the UK that have benefited from slavery. And don't forget, we were still paying off the slave owners until literally a few years ago.
But they're human property.
Yeah. We were still giving reparations to the slave owners.
No.
You see that calculation of how much we owed India, in reparations?
No.
It's £47 trillion.
Fucking hell.
That sounds about right. So when we first went to India under the reign of Elizabeth I, it was the richest country in the world. You got to appreciate this. It was richer than any country in Europe. In fact, it was richer than all the countries then in Europe put together. When we left in the 1940s, it was one of the poorest.
Wow. I mean, this is the thing that makes it kind of not sit well with me, especially, and that's why I really respected because I love Harry and Meghan. I think they're legends. I think they're good people. And what I loved about their documentary was how, in a documentary that went out to millions of people, they gave a breakdown not only of the shocking relationship or the behaviour about press and how the royal family used the press, but also the links to the slave trade. Now that was a learning experience. Like it was stuff that, like, I like to think I've got a pretty broad knowledge. I had no bloody idea whatsoever about any of that. And they took that as an opportunity, not just to tell their story, but to tell us about our own history, because we're obviously not taught this. Why would we be taught this? We're taught a very selective version of history in school. We're not taught about politics. That kind of stuff is reserved for the people that feel that they are entitled to become our prime ministers and MPs in the private schools. It's not taught to run-of-the-mill people. We're just told to go to school, learn how to get into a routine, get a job, pay taxes. Whereas, you know, the ruling classes, the upper middle class people, they're the ones that are going to be basically our bloody, you know, I'm not going to use the phrase, but they're going to be the people that kind of own us in many ways. Like they have our income in their hands. You know, it's when you really think about it, it's really dark.
Just before we go on, I just want to say big thank you to Sir Larry the Cat again for GB News, the Tory mutual mass debating outlet, and also HK, who's dropped in £10 as well. And what I want to say about, like, the you know, I am a graduate history of politics. I did history and politics for A level. I got an A in my politics. I went to university, went to Manchester. I graduated with 2-1, which was quite remarkable because I wasn't that good. And then I traveled around the world. It wasn't until in 2018 when I went to Northern Ireland to talk to one of the framers, one of the people who helped write the Good Friday Agreement, the Belfast Agreement, who was a lecturer at the Queen's University in Belfast, that I don't know, it's kind of like a discovery and also a realization that the Irish population, the population of the entire island of the entire island of Ireland, including Northern Ireland and the Republic, has still not recovered from the potato famine of the 1840s. The population still has not recovered. And when we talk about the Caribbean, this is something I learned in the Caribbean. The Caribbean, where does it get its name from? The Caribs. The Caribs and the Arawaks lived in the Caribbean. There's no Caribs left. You will never meet a Carib. You'll meet some of the Garifuni people who live in, like, Belize and Guatemala, but you're not going to meet a Carib. We wiped them out.
Fucking hell.
With warfare, worked them to death, smallpox.
Well, yeah, you look at things like what Winston Churchill did, seen as a national treasure. He just wiped out thousands of people.
The Bengal famine. 1 million people died in the Bengal famine.
And then you look at the Boer War and the camps and the you know, there, and we have essentially invented the concentration camps.
Can I just say that we on Labour Social can't be too smug about this, because it was a Labour government in power during partition in India in which 1 million people died.
Oh, fuck. All right.
Yeah. Also, it was the same Labour, because I always love this when people go, oh, the Starmer's not real Labour, you know, Miliband's not real Labour, Blair's not real Labour, because they did X, Y, Z. And I'm like, you do know that the Labour Party in 1945, when they got in, they started developing a nuclear bomb. And then one of the reasons why we're a nuclear power is because of the Labour Party.
Oh, mate, yeah.
But then also the Republicans, and the Democrats kind of switched roles, didn't they, in America?
Yeah,
as well?
The Democrats used to be the massive racists who wanted slaves.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. Yeah, so. It just shows, though, it just goes to show that, I was going to say nobody's perfect, but it sounds a little bit too reductionist.
Nobody's perfect.
It's like the end of fucking Some Like It Hot. Yeah. Nobody's perfect. But but no, it just goes to show that nobody's hands are clean, really, and that no political party. I mean, this is why I've always maintained, like, I've never made a politician my idol. And whether it's Johnson or the former leader of the opposition, I think making anyone that's a politician infallible is so dangerous. Like, if you put them beyond reproach or beyond criticism, you give someone like a superpower, and that is such a bad idea.
It's essentially Trumpism, isn't it? That's what Trumpism is.
It is. I see a lot of that with the former leader of the opposition. I see a lot of that with Boris Johnson, not putting them in the same league at all whatsoever. But the tactics are very similar on both sides from the kind of people that are obsessed with each leader. And I've never made any political. I've deeply admired. Like I deeply admire Gordon Brown as a politician. Would I ever say that that man's perfect and beyond criticism? Fuck no. Like no way. So I just think it's so dangerous to assign this kind of celebrity status or this populist status to politicians, because if you do that, they can just do whatever the fuck they want.
That's something that I like about Starmer, Tan. Like, no one worships him. He doesn't have a cult. Great. Good.
Not yet.
I feel okay criticising him, and I know I'm not going to get loads of shit off people going absolutely bananas in my DMs saying, how dare you criticise Starmer. I know I'll get away with it.
You'll get away with it, yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, we need someone like that. We need to make politics boring again. We just need people that are competent, dull, and just get on with shit. That's all we need after what we've done.
For a while. I think that's what we need right now. I think there are a lot of challenges where we need to do some
shit down.
Yeah, for now. But and while we fix stuff, and like, you know, we were talking earlier about how, you know, the next government's not just going to be able to come in and, like, you know, click its fingers and everything's back to normal, right? There's going to be a lot of really hard work. And I think for that, we do just need them to get on with the job, do really, you know, like you say, relatively boring stuff, undo a bunch of the things that have been happening over the last 13 years.
Repeal laws, absolutely. Yeah.
But then I think actually the opportunity is then to do really bold, radical things that are actually going to start improving people's lives, you know, in a really positive, exponential way, right? Rather than just keep things as they are. Because caretaking can be called out as well, right? Like, oh, they didn't really do much, essentially, you know.
Yeah, but if you look at like the early days of Blair and Brown, I mean, like Brown was very prudent fiscally, and then he spent, and then he invested.
Yeah,
like he got the ducks in a row. But again, like, we can have progressive policy without having a prime minister that's a fucking tap dancer.
Of course,
you know, we don't have to have someone that's like trying to be a stand-up, trying to be a you know, a chilled out entertainer or something like that. We can just have we can have someone in the role that's functional, but what we need is to make sure that once this shit's done and we've got the Tories out the way and we've put an end to all this culture war bullshit, because obviously if the Tories, because a lot of people say that Labour kind of answer to all that, if the Tories are seeding a culture war and the opposition are asked about it, they're going to have to answer it, and then that's not them perpetrating the culture war, that's the culture war being talked about, and then them going to the opposition for comment. Like, it's, so we need to get rid of all of that bullshit. I think we need press reform big time.
Oh yeah Leveson too, absolutely, yeah. Because the papers are out of fucking control, beyond, like, shocking. So we need a lot of things, but we don't need to necessarily have someone that's like a performing seal doing that. We just need better advisors in. I think once he's in power, we'll need to really rethink who he's got around him and his team, because don't get me wrong, I think he's made a few fucking shocking decisions lately. But I see why he's had to say what he's had to say. We've got people in the chat agreeing with you, Tan, saying that Martin is saying both Starmer and Davey are cultless, and Aiken saying perfect is the enemy of good. Starmer isn't perfect, no one ever can be. I want boring progressive politics that isn't a fucking clown show of horror and disgust every other day. I can't agree with that comment more. We just want like things to work. It did make me laugh in the locals though earlier. There was a place called, I think it's Clown West, clown with an E on the end.
Yeah.
Something. And they voted Tory, like, by a kind of pretty stonking majority. And it was just like, you just couldn't make this shit up. Like you could not make this shit up.
We just need some competence.
I think he is.
Competence.
Competence. I don't care how boring they supposedly are. I don't think he's boring personally anyway. I actually don't, but
I don't think he can show who he is properly, like, at the moment. You know. And again, we're not looking for a stand-up, though. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think, human rights lawyer, what a bastard, you know. Everyone knows human rights lawyers are bastards.
Yeah, can you, honestly, I mean,
what a dick.
What is a human rights lawyer? I mean, turn the party around. I mean, bloody hell.
The way I think about it, you know, is that it's to really, really simplify the whole kind of, you know, be boring, or, you know, whichever way you want to describe it. The way I think about it is that, you know, essentially, if you come in and you try and improve everybody's lives, including the people that didn't vote for you, you know, because it is about winning the next election as well. It's not just about winning one and getting things better. if you improve everyone's lives, it's really hard to be called out, you know. And so I think this is a thing about being, you know, in America, they say, oh, we're a president of the people and all that kind of stuff, right? It's, you know, you need to represent everybody once you're in, not just the people that voted for you. And so your policies need to reflect that as well. And you know, obviously the Conservatives are divisive and they'll look after their own, and the Labour Party doesn't have a history of doing that, of course. But we need to remember that that's just a really important, simple thing to do, improve people's lives, you know.
And short-termism, I think we're used to short-termism. We're used to them like just plastering over shit and hoping, like bodge jobbing it. Yeah. And the thing is, the thing that concerns me is like a lot of the policies that Labour are thinking about introducing are quite long-termist kind of solutions to problems and preventative, right? But that you're not necessarily going to make inroads on all of that in 5 years. So the worry that I'm going to get is that they're not going to get to everywhere they need to get to, and then people after 5 years are going to go, well, we've not fucking done it, have they? And then just like go back a step. That's the worry that I have, because it takes time to fix the shit. It also takes time to make real lasting change, rather than just like, you know, sellotaping over it and hoping it holds, which is what the Tories have been doing for 13 years. And look where we are. So we
I can't see them. Sorry, Taylor.
No, I'm done.
No, I was going to say I can't. If Starmer wins the next election, I genuinely think it'll be for 2 terms, because I just can't see with the generations and the way things are going at the moment that the Tory would get back in after 5 years, even if it's a dull first term, or just fixing all the crap that's been sorted already. I think that would be obvious, and I think people will spot that, I reckon.
I hope yeah, if they sort the press out.
But
I'm saying I want the press to print everything positive about Labour or anything, but I mean, the problem is, like, I'm talking about like how many of them have got Tory interests, like shockingly so, and broadcasters. I think Starmer's already said that he doesn't think that politicians, including himself, should choose the BBC chair, which is really positive. And then there's like the House of Lords reform, isn't there? And the fact that he's got people like Brown on side, who is trustworthy, who is sound, who is moral, you know. So yeah, it'll be interesting. But yeah, I think I do agree with you there. But if we can get 2 terms, we can make, I think, I say this as a Labour member, I think that we could make proper change. But then fuck knows what we're going to inherit by the time it gets to an election. Like, that's my only worry, because they are just draining everything, aren't they? They're just fucking everything up as much as they can.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, people have been speculating, of course, for quite a long time now about when will the next election be? You know, oh, it might be one called soon. It's not looking good for them.
Yeah.
Why would you call an election if you know you're going to lose it? You know, and it's just going to shorten your time.
Yeah, like this is the problem.
Jeremy
like,
Corbyn
it out, right?
What's that?
Jeremy Corbyn called an election knowing he was going to lose it.
But I mean, if you're in power, I mean, the Conservatives right now, you know, they know they're going to lose the next election, and so basically drag it out. Burn it all to the ground as much as you can, take as much as you can on the way out the door. And why would you leave early from that party, right? You know.
Why would you use
Yeah. Well, it's a gravy train at the moment for all these.
Yeah, because it's a second and third jobs. They're still in a position of power where they've got
all this money, and plus they can have as many second, third, fourth jobs as they like.
Well, that's
many of them do.
Bits of society still to destroy and profit from, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of money to be made in being evil in this country, and that's one of the big things we need to stop. There was a great thing on I think it wasn't Tony Robinson, no, it was David Mitchell. David Mitchell was talking about how, because we make it so that avoiding tax is a benefit to you, we make it virtuous. So we have a system in which it is a virtue to avoid paying tax towards education and the NHS and infrastructure and even our defence, our military, you know, whatever they spend the money on, making it a virtue not to give in to that, not to give your first share and go, yeah, you'll get a bonus for having a clever accountant. That is a huge problem in the UK right now, and we need to stamp that out.
Still can't believe they get away with it. Still can't believe they get away with that shit. I mean, it's unbelievable. Meanwhile, people that are like scraping by get like enormous fines for filling in a bloody form late, whereas they're all just fucking like Jeffrey Cox was what kind of like one of the big scandals that, you know, that's what got Geordie Grigg kicked out the Daily Mail, wasn't it? Exposing the Jeffrey Cox living in the bloody Cayman Islands, wasn't it? And
working, giving advice. Like,
working for
he was giving advice as a lawyer against the British government.
Against the British government.
Yeah.
And then obviously came the old what was the other dodgy bastard that Johnson tried to defend in the what was his bloody name? Because they tried to change the law, didn't they? Owen Patterson, yeah.
Oh,
Patterson.
Where are the Owens from?
Nightmare.
Owen Patterson. That's where I got Owens from. Owen Patterson.
There's old Pinchy McGee, wasn't there? Like, and then there was like the litany.
Well, Pincher was the guy he got kicked out for. Like, a lot of the Tories now saying he got kicked out for Partygate. He survived Partygate. He survived Sue Gray.
So did Simon
said
Case.
He was impeachable. It was a Pincher affair that finally was what done him in.
Oh, you're talking about Johnson. I thought you were talking about Pincher. No, Pincher got kicked out but there's loads of them. I mean, honestly, I made a list. I made a thread of the ones that we know about, and it ranges like, I mean, shocking. There's still a certain MP, which I think we all know, which constituency he's a part of, who I've heard numerous stories about, that is still, I think he still has the fucking whip. And he has done shocking, or he's been accused of really shocking crimes, serious crimes, a multitude of crimes.
Well, we saw this the other week, didn't we, with Dominic Raab, where I literally said to my partner, the day before they all came out, I said, I bet, because he was accused of 8 crimes, and I said, I bet he doesn't get found guilty of all 8 of them, and he tries to fob that off as like, well, I wasn't found guilty of all of these crimes, so was I guilty of a crime at all?
It happened.
And I'm like, yes, sure, because I was thinking of Sideshow Bob from The Simpsons saying, attempted murder, is that really a crime? Do they give Nobel Prizes for attempted chemistry? I think not. And that's the excuse he gave. He said, I was only found guilty on 2 counts. And I'm like, do you know what? If I was accused of murdering 8 people and I only murdered 2 of them, I would still be guilty of murder. No.
This is the thing. You could have turned up to PMQs in a dye t-shirt.
The other defence is to say, oh, well, I don't think the people are concerned with this.
Oh, I hate that.
You know,
People
get pulled over for drink driving.
about.
Oh, I don't think the people are concerned with this.
Boils my piss when they tell us what to think, you know.
Oh, God.
They have been doing it for years now. And this is the thing that really pisses me off when people talk about, you know, there's no opposition. In case you hadn't noticed, there's no appetite for revolution, right? There's no appetite for rioting. If killing tens of thousands of elderly people in care homes, if robbing us blind whilst we were dying, if not paying our nurses enough whilst they were saving our lives during a pandemic, if, you know, the litany of things, if that hasn't made people riot, people aren't going to riot. So you've got to use the systems that we have to eject them. Simple as that.
Yeah,
You know?
luckily today there's definitely an appetite for voting.
Well, this is the thing. We've got to use the one power we have as a protest, because it's the only protest we're allowed to do, just about. You know, so that's what I see tactical voting as. It's a form of protest. It's not spoiling your ballot, which does fuck all. It's actually, you know, affecting change in the only way that you can.
Imagine all those people today that wanted to go and spoil their ballot but didn't have their ID. Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, we
just
have
wipe their arse and just
yeah. I mean, we you know, we still just about do have it, and I'm worried about what else they might do to take it away from us in the next 2 years.
We'll just have to find ways to counter them, won't we?
Yeah,
we will.
Indeed we will. Okay, I think we're gonna have to wrap it there. We've been going on for nearly 3 hours, guys.
My arse is dead. Yeah, I can't move.
My
pizza's cold.
On that call to action. So I think we can wrap this all up by saying, you guys. And Asif is back. Asif is back. Fantastic.
The whole time.
Oh,
been listening in.
Just here for the ending.
I've
been here the whole time.
He was just here for the ending. Unfortunately, I've
Asif, do you remember? Sorry to interrupt, Graham, but Asif, do you remember the time when we were doing that Zoom and Dominic Minghella fell asleep and he was snoring?
Yeah, very loud.
Very loudly. Just kept
What's
seeing
that
little-
noise?
Okay,
Yeah.
nobody tell Dom about this stream.
No.
Oh shit! Sorry, Dom. It's all right. It was beautiful. It was
I don't know what you're talking about.
It was melodic. It had like a lovely timbre, you know. Sorry, Graham.
Sorry, I had the end screen lined up then, and then when Asif
Oh,
turned
that's
back up, I was like, "Ah, shit!" And I might have messed that up a little bit, but
Anyway,
never
sorry,
mind. So no, I just want to say thank you all so
Take two.
much for
Do it
joining
again.
us
Do it again.
tonight on the Labour Social channel. If you wanted to become a patron, head over to patreon.com/Labour Social. We'll be doing more of this kind of stuff. This was very impromptu, wasn't it? This was only like 15 minutes before 9 o'clock that Tan WhatsApp me. She's like, "Are we doing a chat tonight or what?"
We're all hyped up, man. We're all hyped up.
I was all on my couch. I was ready for a night in with a glass of wine and Bridgerton, but you know,
Bloody brilliant.
I'm here. But yeah, so thank you very much, guys. Do you want to just tell everyone who to follow, where to go to follow your stuff? Tan first.
Supertanskiii, Free Eyes, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok.
Excellent. It's TikTok where I first saw you, by the way. TikTok, I think you were like a bit.
I don't know where you first saw me.
A TikTok legend.
But what I do know is, if I had known that it was going to take off, I wouldn't have used such a fucking stupid pseudonym.
I think it's great. I think it's super.
Super.
Tansk,
So yeah,
the third.
I'm on those things. Free Eyes, always Free Eyes.
So Josh, who made the incredible website, which was stopthetories.vote, where can we find you and the movement forward?
Yeah, well, yeah. First of all, stopthetories.vote. So there's a button or a form right on the front now to sign up for our newsletter as well. The whole point about that is getting ready for next time, for the general election, and not just waiting 2 years. There's going to be stuff you can do along the way as well. And then Josh Forward, FWD, and then Movement Forward, MVT, FWD, on basically everything. We got an acronym because no one else had that on every network, so we got that on every network. Or the movementforward.com. Yeah, and there's loads more about who else is involved in this, the kinds of things that we're fighting for. We want to find other people to fight for, and that we'll support other people fighting for, and then some steps along the way. So tactical voting, stopthetories.vote is just the first thing, really. There's more. So there you go. Fantastic. And John, where can we find you? John is my fellow blue tick wanker on Facebook.
Well, on Facebook, yeah. I've still got one on there.
You're bitter.
Elon took it away. Well, I say Elon took my one on Twitter away, but it's weird. If you sort of log in on desktop, sometimes it comes back. You get the original ones back again of people that had them. It's weird, but anyway, that's Twitter, isn't it? Yes, at John Water on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I just tend to. Well, you know what I do, mate. I tend to just.
John makes things happen.
Upset trolls.
He makes things happen.
One tries.
And Asif, have you got any movies coming out or anything that you want people to go and see?
I'm in the middle of making one, so no.
Can you let us know what it is?
Quiet phase.
It is
a bit secret, but it's not too far off everything that we're doing and talking about.
Oh.
But set in the future.
Oh.
Oh shit. Okay. Well, but you're on Twitter, right? People can follow you there.
Yeah, it's just my name on Twitter, but generally follow Josh and Tan and Marina and everyone, and I'll be in the background.
Well, what I'll do is I'll put all of the links to everyone in this chat into the description afterwards. And thanks everyone. So, Asif, is what you're working on now? So it's not a documentary. You're working on another.
Bit of both, actually.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so intrigued.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Oh, it sounds awesome.
So I met you at the screening of the film up in Newcastle, didn't I?
Yes, you did, Preacher.
And so, in the summer at Byline, if anyone's going to be at that, they're going to show Amy. So that might be
at the Byline Festival.
Byline Festival, yeah. I'm going to be at Byline and do a Q&A there if anyone happens to be there.
I'm definitely going to try and make it, yeah.
I quite fancy that now.
Great. Which is where I met Tan, actually.
Yeah.
Last time.
We'd spoken before online, but yeah, we caught up at the Byline Fest. That was Notting Hill, wasn't it? Ackland Village, when they did the little.
Yeah.
They're doing it later this year. It's July, isn't it, or something?
Yeah.
Oh shit! That might clash with Blur.
14th of July, something like that.
Don't clash with Blur.
Graham and I are going to.
We're going to Blur.
Music festivals on, yes.
Fantastic. No, Bylines Festival, if you get a chance to go to that, please do. And also sign up to Bylines Times and also the Bylines TV YouTube channel, which is well worth watching. Well worth a watch. Really can recommend it. So I'll put all these links in the chat. Probably tomorrow. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks for the super chats and all the patrons out there. And until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.
See you later. Thanks, Graham.
Goodbye.
Okay, your audio is off now. Oh, hang on, mine isn't. Bye, everyone.